The following is a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club.
Hello and welcome to the 2024 Summer Chess Classic. This year we will be your hosts. My name is Caleb Denby and I am joined by the wonderful Grandmaster Yasser Seirawan. Hello, Yasser.
A pleasure to be with you. Hello everyone and welcome to our show.
It's a pleasure to be here.
The Summer Chess Classic, it arrived.
Yeah,
At long last.
I was doing some reading. It is our 5th edition of the Summer Chess Classic. And we've got some really exciting players in the events. Some of U.S. chess's up-and-coming brightest stars.
Right.
Andy Woodward, Alice Lee, bunch of new faces, and some familiar faces too.
And just last week, we were just having a training camp with the ladies of the Olympic team, and some of them are here.
Absolutely.
So it's all good.
Well, why don't we take a look at our full rosters? There you see our players. So in the A group, we are led by the ever-strong Grandmaster Ray Robson, hovering around the 2,700 FIDE rating.
Right.
We also have Grigoriy Oparin as one of the favorites, the #1 ranked player at Mizzou. We also have Awonder Liang, Ante Brkic, Nikolas Theodorou, Temur Kuybokarov, Christopher Yu, Benjamin Bach, Mikhail Antipov, and Andrew Hong rounding out the A group.
And in the B group.
Checking it out, we have Grandmaster-elect Andy Woodward. At just 14 years of age, he is our #1 seed in the B group with a rating over 2,500.
Right.
He's also joined by Zierk, hailing from California, I believe. Akshat Chandra, local SLU student. Harshit Raja, Josiah Stearman. Brewington Hardaway, who is one of the other up-and-coming players. Huge college prospect, competing in the B group this year. Melik, also in the B group. And then, as you mentioned, we have 3 women from the U.S. Women's Olympiad team joining for the Summer Classic. That is Irina Krush, Alice Lee, and Tokhirjonova.
And just a shout out to Melik because he, of course, is the senior champion.
Yes.
Got to give Melik credit where credit is due.
U.S. senior champion, representing the 50-plus crowd.
Right. I'll be rooting for you. Melik. And
Absolutely.
Tell us about the format.
Yeah, so this year we have 2 10-player round robins as normal. So that is the A group and the B group that we just saw. The time control is a bit different. We're trying something new this year. It is game in 120 minutes for the entire game with a 30-second increment throughout. That means no second time controls. In addition to that, there are no draw offers permitted in this tournament. Right. So players will have to play things out on the board, either 50 move roll, 3-fold repetition, or to insufficient material. We'll find a way. Stalemate too.
And tell us about the schedule for these 2 events.
Yeah, of course. So starting off today is the 28th. The games themselves start in St. Louis here at 1 o'clock. You can view them online starting at 1:30 p.m. And our show is going to start at 4 p.m. each day. So don't miss it. Of course, that's every day except for the final day when we will start 2 hours earlier. The games here in St. Louis start at 11. You'll see them at 11:30. And our show here in St. Louis will start at 2 p.m.
Tell us about round 1. Let's get into the
round
pairings.
1. Let's see the pairings. Of course, round 1 is already underway. These players have been battling for the past couple hours here. In the A group, we have some exciting matchups. Benjamin Bach takes on Andrew Hong. Christopher Yu takes on Awonder Liang. Grigoriy Oparin up against Antipov. Ante Brkic against Ray Robson. And then a very interesting game going on right now is the one between Theodorou and Kuybokarov.
I noticed that already Grigoriy and Mikhail have made a draw.
Yes.
They have been working and had worked very, very hard for Fabiano, for the candidates.
Yeah.
So they knew each other really well. I think they saw this as a brotherhood pairing. They didn't want to share too much of their secret information in the openings.
Yeah, they're also teammates at Mizzou, so
exactly.
It makes sense.
So they have made a draw, but I've got a game in front of me from the A group, and I must say, at this exact moment, it wouldn't be a big surprise. This is the game between Christopher and Awonder. Christopher played the move queen d1 to d2. It's fine, but then after bishop to b4, there was no really better alternative than retreating the queen. And then after back, and so we have had a repetition, and we might see more of a repetition. How about the pairings for the B group?
Yeah, of course. So over in the B group, there's
Right.
some good matchups as well. Irina Krush takes on Josiah Stearman. U.S. senior champion Melik is up against Hardaway. Harshit Raja takes on Akshat Chandra. Begum Tokhirjonova is playing Steven Zierk. And then perhaps the game itself isn't the most interesting, but it's a very interesting matchup. Andy Woodward takes on Alice Lee. So both of these players, 13, 14 years old.
The battle of the prodigies.
Yeah, finding out who's the strongest.
Yeah, nice. I have the game of Begum on my screen, and I must say, sadly, for Begum's fans, I'm not a fan. The last move, knight c4, it's pretty clear that Steven can just simply snip a pawn, and you know I'm a pawn grubber. Bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3, either knight d3 takes e5, or knight g6 takes e5. Either way, I think we're getting the same position, knight takes, bishop here, and then you can pause. You can ask yourself, do I want to take on c3 and sacrifice my pawn on h6, h7, pardon me, or do I want to play h6 and just play the position of pawn up? And I have to say, this is not a nice position for white.
Doesn't look like fun.
No, doesn't look like fun at all.
Maybe we can check in on the game between Andy and Alice as well, just to see what we've got going on there. I know it didn't look like the most interesting, but all of a sudden Alice is pushing down the board.
Right. This comes from a Queen's Gambit Accepted, and for those of you who are really familiar with the games of Wesley So, it's right up his alley. He loves to play these 4 versus 4, 2 versus 2 on the queen side endings, and I must say I played the Queen's Gambit Accepted throughout much of my career, and I always felt that these positions were closer to a draw.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard to upset the balance. At a certain moment
my understanding is like white really needs to get something early with the piece play. Like if black has time to do what Alice did here, which is get all the pieces in the center of the board, contest the open files, I don't see a reason why black would ever be worse.
Right, except there is there's always that slight but. So if you look at the position and you go, well, how could black ever be worse? Well, your eyes cannot shift to the king side. They have to shift to the queen side. You have to see that this pawn on b5, like in a Ruy Lopez, kind of sticks out a little bit like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
And there's always this threat of a2, a4, undermining the queen side structure.
Of course.
If I can, capture on a6 or force you to capture on a4, the a6 pawn, that was why this is such a nicely timed move by Alice. Knight to d5, just, I wanted to play a4, but here I didn't like the decision to trade. I'm not saying white necessarily has anything, but at this moment the move knight c6 check with the idea of playing f3 and trying to force the bishop away from b7 square seemed like if you're going to get anything, and I'm not saying you are, but if you're going to get anything, it's got to be on that path. As it happens, you were about to say Alice is playing a little ambitiously. This move g5.
Storming down the king side.
Yeah. Be careful. Bishop c3. I'm sure when she played the move g5, she had to be calculating the consequences of e4. Because always when you look at these positions, anything that disturbs the status quo, the pawn structure has changed, black has a passer on the e-file, except maybe his king is a little exposed, you have to make a judgment. Is this something that I'm afraid of or something I'm ready to embrace? Andy said, don't want to do it.
Fair enough.
I'll play the move bishop to c3. And again, not to, the risk of repeating myself, if you're not playing for a4, you're not getting anything in these positions. And so once again, something again, you have to calculate these things always. Rook takes, bishop c3. Why did I trade rooks? Well, it's all about the a4 game.
Yeah, a4 is coming, and
a6 has got to be a little bit weak because
just
the
have to be cautious about b4 in reply always.
Exactly. But if you're not going in this direction, I just don't see how white is ever going to get anything. And look at Alice go.
Yeah, just G5, G4.
Wow.
Trying to find some squares. So I guess A4 was played now.
Was his idea. You had to return to it, right?
Yeah.
But here, then the question is, well, B4, right?
Yeah, I guess the bishop will go to D4, and then what's the story?
I don't know. I think we're kind of stuck for a story line here. I don't think the threat is to take on a6 because I'll have rook a8. So let me throw the ball into your court. Say I play a move like, I don't know, h5 just to reinforce g4 for a moment.
Yeah, I was also wondering about gf3, and maybe black can switch sides and just play a move like rook g8. Gf3,
rook g8, and say, on a good day, I'm going to land on g2, rook g6, rook g2 on the agenda.
Yeah.
You're giving up the open file, but you're basically saying, I can't exploit it, yeah?
Well, you can't exploit it, and I gave up that open file for a different open file.
Right.
I might go rook g6, rook h6.
Yes, just to tickle the pawn. That's a good strategy.
I'm not seeing white's next move on the queen side either. a6 is attacked once, but it's hard to attack it a second time.
So, I'm not a big fan, but let me just I feel that my knight on a5 is a bit stranded.
Well, I'll take the pawn, Yasser.
Well, be careful. You might get trapped. Be careful. You might get trapped. If you take the
bishop
pawn,
h2.
I wanted to take on d5. You can play bishop g3 check. It doesn't matter.
I'll do it later.
Okay, because this was where I was trying to lure you in.
Of course.
But
okay, I'll give the check.
Yes.
And after...
Here, I would, of course, put my king on f3.
Yeah.
But you could have given me the check a moment ago, and then I'll put my king on e2 and be polite.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm wondering about f3 because my next move is bishop h4, and if you're on f3, I might throw in a rook g3 check and force you back that way anyways.
Okay, so at the moment, I've got check on my agenda.
I see.
Just to give you a heads up.
So maybe I do need to play rook a c8.
Mm-hmm. Right. So we get some position like this, and I suspect, well, the pawn structure is a little bit weird. If the bishop were on f6, I'd say it's okay. The bishop on g3 makes me a little nervous that it could get trapped.
I'm up a pawn, though. So, yeah, I mean, here in particular, I guess, there is rook c2 to try and hold on to everything. And then bishop h2, I guess.
Bishop h2.
And, I mean, I'm really, really stretching thin, but...
Ooh, bishop h2, okay. You're alive.
If you give me, like, 2 tempi, I'll play h5, h4.
h5,
and then I'm cooking.
Then you're cooking with gas. Got it. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on this one.
The point though I think is I think Alice is the one with all the play here. I think if she gets a little crazy like I'm getting, there's some chances to go wrong. But for the moment, I'm not seeing where all this kingside play is supposed to come from.
Okay. We do have a4 on the board, and so again, we've been looking at the move b4. Bishop d4, and a line like gf, and after rook g8, I went knight c4 only because I felt, well, I was kind of hobbled by my stupid offside knight there.
Maybe b3 is a way to try and prepare it and try and take with the b pawn after something like knight c4 to just displace a lot of these pieces.
So something along these lines, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big... Well, could I? No. I was looking at rook h6. I was trying to be a little bit greedy here.
Sure.
Yeah. Here I'm not not a, yeah, b3. Oh boy.
I don't think I love it for white. Trying to suggest something else.
Yeah, no.
It feels like there's a lot of reason to be afraid here with the white pieces.
Oh.
And yeah, the things that are going unsaid. Of course, white would love to play something like f4 to take control of the c4 square, but you just can't with the rook on g8 because this rook g2 check is going to be pretty powerful.
Exactly.
It also gives up the g4 square for the knight.
Yeah.
So
no, f4 is definitely opening up the position in black's favor.
It's just hard for white to kind of push back on these pieces.
I'll go once more down this line just to takes. We took on h2. I took on d5. Did you want to give me a check?
Okay, I'll give you a check.
Okay. I'll go with my king. You'll take my bishop back. Now this is where I was trying to get the compensation. I've got check, but I want to play king f3.
I'm wondering if I can give you the pawn back and try something like h5.
h5.
Yeah, I think my h pawn's really important, and if I can start pushing.
In the words of somebody famous, let me introduce my rook.
Uh-oh, I'm gonna get checkmated in the middle of the board. Never mind. King e6, and I guess you're just going rook ac1, and it's almost dead.
That's not what the doctor ordered, right?
That sneaks up on you, I guess.
This is like one of those puzzle rush.
Bishop e5.
Yes.
Oh, goodness.
Yes, a puzzle rush tactic coming up there.
Yeah.
So it might be dangerous to snag the pawn. We'll keep an eye on this one. In the A group, I wanted to say that, yes, did they make a draw, by the way?
Yeah, I think this game has ended between Christopher Yu and Awonder Liang. They have repeated thrice legally getting a draw without offering it.
Right. No draw offers in the Summer Chess Classics here. Okay, a stalemate, 3-time repetition, yes, but no draw offers. Final position, I must say, I'm not quite sure who I think stands better. I think a draw is an appropriate result, but on the other hand, if I absolutely had to win the game to win the U.S. Championship, that kind of thing, I might feel that black actually has some reasons for continuing.
Yeah,
that is to say, rook c7, rook c8.
I'm a Caro player myself, and this is one of the good ones, I would say.
It looks good. It looks good. I mean, a French defense with the bishop outside of the pawn structure. It's not stuck on d6, d7. Sorry.
My question is, like, with the bishop on e7, the best white could find is to play queen d2, and now white can't go queen d2 after this repetition with bishop b4. So what's your useful move here after rook c7?
Exactly.
So I don't know what white would play, and black's moves seem easy. You play rook fc8, you move the knight from c6 to somewhere else.
A similar train of thought is congratulations. Like, seriously, well done. You put your queen on d2. It's a much better square than d1, and what's the purpose?
Yeah, I was
You're not
wondering.
Going to play rook c3 because bishop b4 really is.
Yeah, my mind goes to the tactics, but I don't think there's anything good here.
And sack.
Even if you do play g4, I still have time to play bishop b4. So there's not even a question.
Right.
Like, maybe if I had to go knight h4, takes on h6, I could try and drum something up, but I always have bishop b4 first, and then that's the end of the line.
Exactly. So what we're saying is that if white was aspiring to sacrifice a piece, such as g4, knight h4, bishop takes h4, bishop takes h6, and hoping for,
like knight f4 stuff. But
yeah, a good day. What Caleb points out is the move g4, as nice as it would appear, I have the move bishop here, driving the queen back, and then I am happily moving aside. And maybe you didn't want to play g4. The bishop looks like a great defensive piece. In any case, a draw in this one. Let's just take a look at the other games for just a moment. Oops.
Sure.
Nope. It's not that one.
So we'll click over here.
Over there. Gotcha. Benjamin Bach.
Yeah, our number one, no, not number one seed in the A group.
Yeah.
I'm used to him being number one seed in everything I play in.
Yeah, because he's been playing in some of these blitz and rapid tournaments
so-
very successfully.
Bach, local to St. Louis, of course. He's been playing in a lot of our weekly events and collecting some paychecks from it, too. He tends to win more often than not.
Exactly.
But we give him some good competition here.
We try. Bishop d7, bishop f1, queen c7, rook d1, rook d8. So we've reached a position where the predecessors would call this the hanging pawn structure. c4 and d4. And the idea is that the hanging pawn structure was weak but dynamic.
Yes.
There was always these ideas of d4, d5 blasting open the bishop.
And a lot of the time you see them both on open files. This time only the D pawn sits on a semi-open file.
Right.
So the C pawn can't really be targeted. I don't know, I would definitely take white here.
Sure, I like the activity as well. The question, though, is in the game, white made a very, I want to say, very consequential decision to play the move knight e4 and essentially force the trade of knights.
Well, all the books say that's a bad idea.
Yes,
right?
exactly. And in this exact moment, I'm not 100% sure I'm a big fan of that move. If I'm in black's shoes, I'm probably going to play bishop d7, c8 next, and just kind of hang around and wait, right? I'm going to essentially react to whatever plan white throws my way. In this moment, you know, I'm more of a kind of make those threats. Bishop a1, queen b2,
Okay.
and then d5.
And then D5 stuff.
So I'm asking you a question, like, will your bishop go back to f8? If it does, that's fine. You know, you can go back to f8. In the meantime, I put this battery, and I really want to play d5. Let's see what Benjamin played. He played knight e4, knight takes e4. Let me just rook takes e4,
And this is live.
this is live position. Okay.
Yeah, so of course, you know, I said all the books say it's a bad idea. When you have less space, oftentimes your pieces get in each other's way.
Right.
And so maybe removing this knight on f6 gives black some more freedom. On the other hand, the knight's a very important defender. And now rook h4 is immediately making some threats.
Yeah, okay, so for me, I don't think the knight is actually on a great spot, so let me put it on the better spot. Let me play the move knight f4.
Very
Not
sensible.
because I was necessarily so worried about this, but I was like hoping to kind of trade some more. And
So knight e5 would be tempting, but I guess bishop f5 ends the line.
tempting, yes. Yeah, that kind of puts the kibosh on tempting. So the move knight f4, trade a pair of rooks, threaten maybe bishop f5. After
All
knight
of a
e5.
sudden, it seems like white doesn't have much of anything, right? If we do have to play rook takes e8 or rook d1, once a set of rooks goes off the board,
Feels like the dynamic.
black's bishops are nice. Black's knight seems good. It can go back to g6 if it ever needs to defend. And
Right.
No reason to be unhappy.
Now, how can our audience join us? Can
Of
they
course.
ask questions?
Yeah, feel free
tell
to.
us what's going on.
You can always follow along with the games online at uschesschamps.com, as well as get up to date on any of the standings, upcoming pairings, get some nice player bios in there as well.
Right.
And if you would like to join into the show, you can follow us on Twitch or YouTube. You can also tweet at us, or I guess X at us, using the hashtag Summer Chess Classic.
I feel overwhelmed.
You can do anything.
Tweet,
Just open your
X.
computer, type in Summer Classic, and you can interact with us.
Wow.
It's that easy.
Wow. Wow. I mean, we're giving them way too many options.
Yeah.
By the way, knight f4
Knight
was
F-
not chosen. Knight f8.
A little bit
Maybe
more compact.
Well, this might have more of a, because rook takes e8 doesn't come with a check.
Yes.
So the
bishop
knight was on
f5 was a threat.
The drawback is you've allowed bishop d3, and Benjamin was quick to play bishop d3. Now I'm wondering about this move. May I play this? No, I can't. I apologize.
Rook f8 with a check.
Check. Zwischenzug.
Yes.
Zwischenzug. So yes, bishop to d3 came very, very quickly. Again, white has the more active pieces, I say slight advantage, but black is very, very solid.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, while we have a little break in the action, maybe we can check out the prize structure for the event, see what these
Please.
players are playing for.
Oh, right.
So first place is $5,000 in the A group, and then it goes down from there. Second place, $4,000, third place, $3,000, and then it drops off a bit. $2,500 for fourth, $2,000 for fifth, $1,500 for sixth and seventh, and $1,000 just for showing up and getting 8th, 9th, or 10th. Now,
Feels like a hot chocolate moment. Everyone's a winner.
yeah, I could be wrong, but I believe there is also built into the structure some kind of winner's bonus. So if we have a tie for first place, we will have playoffs.
Nice.
And the winner gets a little extra money, I believe.
Okay.
In the B group, first place, $4,000. Second place is $3,000. Third place, $2,500. And then goes down from there, $2,000, $1,500, $1,000, $750, $750. And $500 just for playing 9 games of chess and giving us something to talk about.
Thank you, St. Louis Chess Club. That's very, very generous indeed. These summer classics are not just a chance to play norms, but also, you know, seriously, just this, you got to feel the pieces. Where's my game, you know, and this idea that you can train. And these tournaments are just great for the players, and we have 4 of them.
Yeah, this one in particular, I'm so glad we could have the U.S. Women's Olympiad team joining us for an event. I believe before the tournament, they had themselves a little bit of a training camp,
Yes,
had
they
some
did.
trainers helping out.
Alex
And-
Onishuk and Darush from St. Louis University.
These sort of mid-level grandmaster, strong grandmaster events are a fantastic place for the U.S. players to get some training in, and so we
Exactly.
can continue to excel on the world stage.
Exactly, that's what it's all about. Let's see, where would we like to go?
Anywhere in the world. Taking a look at our playing hall there, we see Steven Zierk wandering around, and yeah, it looks like Begum is not so happy with her position against Steven. We checked in on that game earlier, and Steven won that pawn. But maybe we can check in on some other games. Maybe let's see
Sure.
how Irina's doing.
Let's do it. Irina is up.
And we are
Whoa.
mid-tactic, it looks like.
We had kind of left it at this point.
Yeah, so I had mentioned Queen D5 here, and you mentioned Queen D7 might be a good reply, but that's
Right.
not what Josiah went for.
Queen D5 was played. Bishop to G4. Okay, that it was supposed to have come with tempo.
Yeah.
Irina said, not so fast. I've got knight G6.
And after Bishop E6, we would have a queen sacrifice.
After Bishop E6, we would indeed have a queen sacrifice. Whoomp. And the whole point is at the end of the ball game, Black is facing.
All we've done is trade pieces, but they were good pieces to trade.
Yeah, but that D pawn is a danger. Let's see. In the game, however, we've already seen this move.
Yeah, Josiah went for Bishop takes D1. The idea must have been to take on F8, or maybe not. Maybe we can take back on D1, and the rook cannot move, or maybe it can. I don't know. So if we go knight takes D1, I think rook E8 is playable, and we hang F7 with check, but the king can just move out of the way.
Oof, 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 oof. I don't see a knockout blow per se.
I was born without fear.
Yeah, exactly. I would be fearful.
I guess queen F5 might be good, but we might get a repetition. If you go king G8, I don't see a better move. But you can't go something like queen G5 because I have knight F8 double check, and then that's the end.
Curtains. Gotcha. Checkmate. Yeah, you have to go king G8. I'm thinking about these marvelous.
Back to D5.
You know, and it would be so nice to play queen E4 here, because then you would be getting the knight double F8 check as well as knight takes H4, queen D3.
But now we have queen C4 with the same idea.
Thank you. There you go. And through the brilliant maneuver
we've earned ourselves a difficult endgame.
Two knights versus a rook. Okay,
maybe
so
knight d1 is on Irina's mind, and that's why she's pausing here.
for sure.
So yeah, the obvious choice would be knight takes f8, but
Which I thought she was going to do almost for certain. I'm assuming queen takes. I don't think there's anything
we
better.
should defend f7, I guess.
Rook takes. Now, in Irina's mind, she's got a very crystal clear idea. She wants to put her pawn on d7 and kind of ravish the queen side. And
b7's hanging. The d6 pawn is well defended.
it's on the doorstep of this looks good for Irina, and
Yeah, maybe the saving grace for black is we can put our bishop somewhere like g5 or f6, and at least it defends the queening square. But definitely black in some serious danger here.
yeah. So I mean, you're right. We can anchor the bishop, whether it be g5, whether it be f6. But I really think it's all about this pawn, and if I can,
Yeah, like knight e4.
yeah,
It's already
starting to
slip. She's
yeah.
played something.
She indeed has. Let me just refresh my board. And they're
Oh, queen b6 check was a nice inclusion.
very, very nice. So when we left it, we saw knight takes f8, and we recaptured on f8 with the queen, kind of misplacing our pieces. I much prefer queen b6. It defends the b7 pawn.
A little more
to begin
coordinated.
with, and
Defends b7, also attacks b2.
attacks b2, and just overall, just a much superior choice. Now, let's try to evaluate the position. So rook takes, queen takes, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so this is where, the bishop and the rook together maybe are enough to stop the pawn for the moment, and that allows us to get this activity with the queen. But
Right, and again, it's this, you're pawn up, but, and it's a very, very big but, this pawn on d7, so in my mind's eye, I'm threatening to go d7 and maybe knight to d6, and maybe even knight to e8 or knight to b7. So your extra pawn, you can push it if you like.
I'm wondering about a silly move like if g3 is ever a threat as well. I guess, okay, so you can go to d8, but I don't know that,
It's
maybe you would
necessarily
prefer to have your rook there.
Okay. So what we're looking at for Irina is...
So rook d1 is on the board, and Josiah just took on b2 as well.
Queen takes b2.
And it must be knight e4.
Right.
I mean, you could go to a square like b5, but I don't see any way that's any better. Center of the board's pretty good.
Yeah. Playing through the center. Knights love the center. So knight e4. You're just kind of instinct here. Would you take the pawn, or would you take the dynamic play?
I gotta prefer white here.
Me too.
The pawn is pretty far away from being relevant.
Right.
It only matters for king safety, I think. And I think right now, the way my pieces are organized, I don't really have much problem defending my king.
Exactly. Exactly.
The other nice thing for white is you've sort of taken all you can take with black. Everything else I've got well defended. I'm not struggling.
You've reached your zenith.
You're not getting my A pawn, you're not getting my G pawn, you're not getting my D pawn. You're out of stuff to take.
Right.
And meanwhile, B7 still slightly loose, F7 a target, and D7, D8 always on the mind.
Exactly, always. So
what about you?
No, I absolutely like white. I think that it's a great compensation, whether it's winning, that's a different matter, but definitely great compensation. Probably what I would do.
I think that's the litmus test, Yasser.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be up the pawn, then
Yeah,
it's probably no good.
No good. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably already start to, try to steer towards trading queens, something of this nature.
This is the Grandmaster way, is you take the extra pawn just
Then
so you can
trade.
give it back, just
Yeah,
to
trade.
take the pawn back, just let me get some pieces off the board and save the game, save the half point.
Exactly, that's exactly what I'm trying to do.
But Irina definitely pressing.
Yes, definitely. Let's just go around the horn a little bit here and see some other games. What do we have in this one? This is Russia versus Akshat.
Yes, of course. So another battle of some college students.
Right.
Okay, some more tactics.
Wow. First instinct is like white's having the fun.
It looks like it.
It looks like it. White is having some fun here. Rook d3. Okay, so
Yeah, on second thought, now I'm always biased towards my own openings, and you know, in my games, I just haven't been a huge believer of these types of kingside attacks with the IQP. You know, I understand my net on b6 isn't so great, but you know, I'm just a couple tempi away from breaking through in the center, and then the attack might, you know, either it'll fizzle or the game will end and I'll be checkmated. But if it fizzles,
nice game,
I'm doing well.
GG.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I like the move rook to d3. I'm sacrificing a pawn, and I don't see the real reason for me to do that. I'd find myself drawn to the move bishop e5 here.
Yeah.
So the idea
Even
is
with knight f6 first as well could be an option.
well, actually, I really wanted to put my knight on d6. So I'm thinking bishop to e5. Now, how would you handle bishop to e5?
I think I have a couple choices. I could either go knight d5, or I could go ahead and actually take on e5 and let you have that square. But let's say I take.
You're too kind.
And maybe I can go rook d5 here, is what I was counting on.
Right. Rook to d5. Okay, so it's all about the square. Knight to d6, and let's find out.
Uh-oh.
Am
I missing a tactic, or can I take e5?
It's the, you have f6, that is true. So I have to do it a little bit more safety oriented.
Maybe f4 was a good square too, because of your, or...
Okay,
g3. And then, it's not so easy. Maybe knight c4, and I can contest that square just a bit.
Okay, so finally I can get my knight to d6. Yeah.
But now my rook on d5 is very nice, because I think I can take d6, and of course I can't take the pawn right away, but I can go queen d7, and I think you have real problems holding on to that guy. Because if you ever take on d5, I take back with the pawn.
Which one?
C pawn this time.
Okay.
Until proven otherwise. Oh, and then if I go rook d8, you have rook c7, and if I take, I am back rank mated.
Back rank.
It's always a matter of tempi in chess.
And in this case, if you do play rook c8, my idea of putting my queen on on g3, kind of a little bit of a reveal suddenly. I do have the move queen c3, and it looks like the pawn is too fast. It's just too fast at this moment.
I would agree. So
interesting,
maybe
but he
some
didn't
stuff
do
going
this.
on.
He didn't.
Well, I also, maybe I have a different idea and could take e5 after knight d6 there.
Sorry.
But he didn't do any of this, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that I would have found myself drawn to this move.
Yeah.
And I thought that you were going to play knight d5, actually. And then the idea was just to, play a positional game where my isolated queen pawn isn't so weak. You're not hitting it.
My feeling is that knight d5 would be positionally good for white. That's why I was sort of drawn towards bishop e5, and let's try and calculate our way out of some danger here.
Right. This was your intention.
So we got queen g3, and I was saying knight c4, knight d6.
Yep.
And I was just wondering if I could actually take on e5. I wasn't sure.
How?
Maybe I can't. Knight takes e5. Oh, and then you have queen takes e5. Ah, goodness.
Yes.
Yeah, the tactics aren't so good. Can't calculate my way out when all the tactics are good for white.
Well, in that case, it was just like it's not usual that you would have your king on h8.
Yeah, that's why it's a bit weird. I'm used to these positions with my king on the normal square, and then everything's fine.
Exactly. Wait a minute, who did that?
Anyway,
you did.
So
he didn't do that.
I think I'm with you, and I like this bishop e5 idea, because without the d pawn, it's hard to believe that black is gonna suffer against this kingside attack.
Okay, so Raja's basically just said, I give you one pawn. Are you interested in a second? So I can anchor my bishop, and that's a very attractive move, is to play the move e5. With
of course.
with the bishop nicely supported, and then next turn knight to d5 and everything supported. But I'm a pawn grubber. Just help me understand.
What's better than one?
The two, as Oliver said.
Yeah,
can I have some more?
It's not so clear here.
It's not obvious to me either at all. I mean,
so if I try to get it on the back rank, you have knight d5. Like if I play bishop e7 or something,
right,
knight d5 is the automatic reply.
Absolutely. So any attempts like this will be, as you say, you close the d file instantly.
So I can't advance over there. I don't see how to improve my pieces. I mean, I could play something like rook d3 again, but I can't even make a threat with white.
the funny part is, even if you imagine that you had forced my queen to g8, like, so what? It's sort of like, it's kind of funny that black is so solid.
Yeah.
There's no weaknesses. 2 pawns to the good. How does it look at the playing hall? We can see from the webcam.
Yeah, I think black is still thinking it over, whether or not to play something like e5 and stay solid in the center, or take a second pawn. I think e5 also looks very desirable. Like
exactly.
I don't think I could fault him for just playing e5, saying I'm up 1 pawn, and I'm dominating in the center.
And your next move is knight to d5.
Yeah,
and
knight d5, also something like queen c8, and bringing the queen towards the center as well.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, white's going to be hard-pressed to prove his compensation on this one, unless we're overlooking a tactic. I don't believe rook takes d4, and this just, no. This is just...
not a believer. So maybe you're dreaming I'll play f6 and you can play knight takes.
Yes.
But even if I blunder this,
you don't blunder the next.
I don't have to take f6.
Yeah.
And I'm still up.
Yes.
Still up a pawn.
Exactly. Yeah, you could.
Or no, I'm not. But I'm.
Exchange.
Yeah.
Your material. Probably you start with the move rook g8.
Yeah, I like rook g8.
I was just in my mind's eye.
Knight f6 is also there, I guess.
I had this idea.
Okay.
Queen h5.
Is knight f6 another way to go about this?
Maybe,
okay,
maybe.
But knight g5, and then after here, of course, we can't take because...
That's kind of cute.
Side rank mate.
Yeah, side rank mate.
Yeah, knight f6 also is
I don't
there,
know.
Right? So rook g8, knight f6 is...
So e5, rook takes d4, very dubious exchange sacrifice. But
I would say e5, I wouldn't call it exactly a natural move. Like, it makes sense to cement your bishop, but facing this attack on the king side, I actually quite like that the diagonal's open. My bishop can guard g7 for me.
Yeah.
And if I ever feel the need to play something like, g6, I can slide the bishop all the way back home and guard those dark squares.
Yeah, I would be more inclined as well to grabbing the second pawn. Bishop takes b2. Continuing our look around the horn. Begum, we have mentioned before, she was suffering a pawn down, but something else happened. When we left it, we kind of expected bishop takes f3.
Bishop f3 with takes on e5, but I think Stephen won a different pawn.
Stephen saw another opportunity of winning a pawn.
Yeah, and this way black gets to keep the bishop, and I think this is an even better version for black.
Interesting.
The a pawn is passed. I still have my light squared bishop.
Right.
Life seems quite good here for black.
You know, it's really funny. All my life, I've been playing, like many grandmasters, the fianchettos, fianchetto bishops. So Catalans, perk defensive.
Yeah. So yeah, and with the fianchetto bishop, so it looks nice, like the diagonal's wide open, but with the light square bishop still on the board, and black can maybe control the d5 square, maybe this bishop isn't that impressive.
Exactly, that was my thinking. So I like the fact I'm a pawn up, very much, but I also like the fact that I'm a pawn up with an imbalance that in some ways might really be in my favor. We were looking at a position like this, and this idea that the light square bishop is great. It really is. But it's on an empty diagonal.
Yeah.
It's not really doing anything. In the meantime, let's suppose, just for argument's sake, you have to play a move like c4.
Yeah,
My knight
the dark square is...
will end up doing something very, very real.
Yeah.
It will be hitting a very tender pawn on b3, and I like this.
Yeah, I love saying the buzzwords from the chess books.
What's
so
that?
they always say, that bishop's biting on granite
Right.
when the pawn structure is, very against the bishop. The bishop's like attacking a strong pawn. And this one, I think you might have coined the phrase biting on air.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing there. It's a nice open diagonal, but there's nothing to look at, nothing to do.
It's a vacuum. On the other hand, let's see what we have. Bishop to d5. Begum is not happy. She's not a happy camper. This move, bishop to d5, sets up, once again, for the standard bishop takes f3 and knight takes e5. Stephen might be thinking, hey, I'll just happily collect a second pawn, and can't blame him for being greedy.
Yeah, and Stephen, I checked my fact sheet. I thought I remembered him winning one of these classics before.
I remember
But
him playing in them.
I know
certainly.
he definitely played in quite a few. I don't think
Right.
he's ever been the champion, but he's
Okay.
the number 2 seed in the B group, so
Gotcha.
one of the top guys, only outrated by the 14-year-old Andy Woodward.
Let's check in
So
with
his
the
tournament potentially off to a good start.
with the battle of the prodigies. When we left it about these parts. We'd just seen the move b4, bishop to d4. You had mentioned, Caleb,
I
that you
liked
could take
the idea of opening up
and
that file.
rook to g8. I like just chill,
Yeah, H5, nice and solid.
nice and solid. But Alice chose knight to d7.
That seems odd to me.
For sure. Knight to d7. Okay, so she wants to play e5. And she's basically saying, I think I've trapped your bishop. Do something.
Okay, and H2's hanging, but
H2's
maybe we won't take it. There's always this F4 idea, right?
Yeah. So
And
first of all, let's peek
F4
ahead.
seems really natural, though,
He,
right?
he played well. One of the things I hate doing is I hate marching to my opponent's script.
Okay.
So it seems to me that in this position, what Alice would like to see happen is f4, so that she can maneuver her knight to e4.
I
right?
see.
So I'm looking at this position and I'm saying to myself, okay, if I take on
G4, okay.
e5.
Where to go?
Where to go? I'm just stuck. I just don't have it. So I have to start with the move e4.
Okay. And if I capture that one,
Then I capture that one.
take on G4. Okay.
Right.
I was wondering if you would take on E4 and then bishop G4, but I like this as well for white.
Well, the idea here at least is I'm leaving black with something to think about. There's double pawns on e4 and e6.
Yeah. Okay, so why not this?
Why not this? But I'm just saying that while f4 might appear to be a natural move, it also feels to me like
That's what Alice wanted.
wanted. Yeah, and so my natural instinct is to kind of resist playing the natural move. Bishop to c5. Now that is a curious move. Bishop to c5. Knight f6 looks much more tempting to my eyes.
Knight f6, comes with the tempo.
Right.
And maybe
That knight is.
I'm
on.
not sure what we were unhappy about after knight f6.
I'm not
but,
sure either. That looks like a happy square.
Like to me, the dark square bishop seems like a problem piece for white. Like it's very nice, it's centralized, but it seems to be like the target of some some ideas. And so bishop to c5, black's dark squared bishop was doing a great job defending c7 in a lot of lines, defending the b4 pawn, and I don't see why we want to get rid of it. I like our bishop on d6.
Right. I think that Alice was thinking that bishop takes c5, knight takes c5 was what she hoped to do, that she would have this knight coming nicely to e4. And that if you couldn't take on c5, then in her mind's eye, she was isolating the pawn and creating a weakness. What she might not have realized or misjudged is actually bishop takes d4, e takes d4 is not that bad. And that bishop was actually doing a pretty good job, as you were saying. Defended b4, defended c7. Now, Andy is getting excited here because he can see that if he could play bishop takes c4, there might be a knight c6 check in the offing.
Yeah.
Let me just refresh my board and catch up with the players. What are the clock times, by the way, with these two?
Peeking at Alice there. So it looks like Alice is the time advantage here with about 40 minutes on the clock.
Gotcha.
Andy down to about 25, but Alice seems to be deep in thought. I think you're right, and maybe bishop c4 was misjudged.
A little bit, yeah.
But getting into the details, so if I take on d4, you have to take back.
I will.
Otherwise, there's some tactics. And if I just go for this knight f6 thing again?
Yeah, and that was what I was saying, that you've got a square.
Takes. So we'll go ahead and try to take with the knight.
Okay,
And
so that is a tempo. And I really wanted desperately, of course, to play knight to c6 check, but king to d6 is really...
I'll replace the bishop with the king.
True that. So I'll end up having to do something that, well, it's not fun, but g3, I'll chill.
And
chill my jets.
Maybe I'll choose the d7 square for my king now, just to not step into knight c4 or knight b7 checks. So king d7 rather than d6.
Okay. In any case, I was going to come back to put my knight on e5. Knight to c4.
And I'm running out of things to do. Like I can go potentially rook c7 and try, or maybe rook a7 is a better way. Maybe it's not. No, rook c7 I think is the safer option.
Rook to c7, a safer option.
Yeah, I was guessing you would give me the check. I think I will go to d6.
Okay. And
yeah, I'm losing control of the file though, so I'll take with the king.
I feel that this is not...
This is not going well.
Right, it's not
King
advantage.
b7, and I'm fighting just to trade off the rooks.
That's
like what I want is to get to some knight endgame where maybe it's unclear, but
I'm feeling like
this is going wrong.
Yeah, it's gone a little bit wrong, and that was because Alice made the decision to trade the bishops, where the bishops were actually holding like a glue for Black's position. Let me just refresh for a moment.
I think she's still thinking.
No, she's
taken on d4. Okay.
And this, again, for those who are joining us late, shame on you. But we were looking at this position, takes, and I went knight to c4, yes? Or
I think you gave the check.
Check first. I apologize.
I went to... No, I have no idea how we got there. It wasn't this.
It wasn't this.
I think it was...
Oh, it was g3. I apologize.
Yeah.
It was takes, and I was defending my pawn on f4 with the move g3.
Yes. Okay, and now I think I can improve a bit and maybe play takes on c1 before I do anything else.
Okay, takes.
And then king d7. And
king
again,
d7.
all I'm trying to do is just get the rooks off the board because I gave up my bishops that stopped your rooks from invading. So now they're going to invade if I don't get them off the board.
Exactly. Now here, rook c6 is a key question, but another key question is if you play rook c8, my intention was to trade rooks and then play knight c5.
Yeah.
So for example...
That's a great question.
If you do this, remember long time ago, we were having this discussion about the queen side. There's this sore little thumb, this pawn on b5, and then it became the pawn on a6.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like it's always there. It's a long-term thing. Here, This is just a very, very pleasant ending for the first player.
Yeah.
You get
If
your
you ever
king
play a5, then the king gets
to a nice little square. And
c4, aiming for b5.
yeah, and this is not fun. This could, in fact, just be lost.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, so we'll keep an eye on this one, and let's...
Big danger.
Big danger. Big danger. Okay, so which other game have we seen? Irina. Yeah, this game is actually a very fun game, and I think that in some ways this is like a test that you'll see on an exam. You know, you open up a book, and like they'll ask you, is the pawn worth? Is it full compensation? Full, and a bishop e7. That's a good move. We were looking at trying to anchor the bishop on either the g5 or f6 squares, but some...
Yeah, but with the knight on e4, it's...
Yeah, Irina's knight on e4 is very, I want to say dominated. It's a strong word, but controlled by the bishop on e7.
Yeah. What's the next move? It's hard to say. It seems like it's kind of tenuous. I don't know. Maybe we just play something like h3 and give black a turn and see what there is to do. It seems like, white's pieces have all been improved, maybe to the maximum.
Right.
Which sounds nice until it's your turn and you have to move one of them.
Yeah.
You're like, well, now where do I go?
Yeah. We had a guy, and all good things come from the Pacific Northwest. As you know. We had a guy in Seattle. His name was Bob Zook, 3 letters, Z-U-K. And Bob Zook was an incredibly strong master.
Yeah.
And he was very, very gifted. He had a natural playing style. And what he was especially good at was putting his pieces on the very best squares.
Okay.
So if you look at this position from white's point of view, you kind of go, oh, wow, like queen e4, rook d1, knight e4. These are the best squares for the pieces. And we would say he reached the Zook point.
Okay.
He put his pieces on the best squares, then he didn't know what to do.
Exactly.
I mean, like, you've reached your zenith. There's nothing else, like he stopped. So h2, h3, we don't know why. We're getting out. We're escaping a backward checkmate, But we've reached the Zook point.
Yeah, what else to do?
We maximized what we could do, and now we don't know what to do.
Yeah, I've had some opening debates along similar lines where it'll be some position where white's pieces all look great and black's pieces all look terrible. And I'll be like, isn't it great? Like, black's moves are so easy. Every move I play improves my pieces.
Exactly.
And like, what do you do with white?
Right. You're stuck.
But yeah, so here, like, black can go rook d8 next. Like, black has a few more useful moves to play. And not to be the commentator's curse.
Yes.
But what if the game went rook d8, rook f1, rook f8, rook d1?
Ooh.
Is that's something that might happen?
It's entirely conceivable.
Yeah.
Yes, because at this point, the bishop on the bishop on e7 was a very good answer. If Irina had gotten the opportunity to play knight d6, followed by potentially knight e8, or followed by potentially knight b7.
Yeah.
I think she would have enjoyed, but bishop e7 was a very good setup. We missed it originally when we got to this position.
Yeah, I think this queen b4 move was something we didn't quite look at, because we saw queen b6 maybe, but queen b4 was a nice queen retreat as well. Just shows that he really understood that the d6 square is what matters here.
Exactly.
And so connecting the queen with the bishop, and now black has the defensive setup. You put a move on the board though after h3, rook d8. You said maybe rook c1 is a way to continue the game.
Exactly. The idea of h3 was we'd love to play rook e8 as well as rook to c8 and, leverage this pawn on d7. Now we don't have to worry about a back rank mate. Yeah, and so rook c1.
If there are a set of pieces white would want to get off the board, it would be the rooks instead of the minors or the queens.
Yeah. But again, with this bishop on on e7 doing such a fabulous job. So, for example, let's say I just push.
Yeah, I'll go ahead, rook c8.
Yeah, like what else are you going to do, right? a4. It's hard for me to imagine that black isn't, with the bishop on d8. He's going to get his counterplay against the white king. It's not going to be all
I have maybe
fun and roses.
I'm all tactics today, Yasser.
Please.
Can I just play knight d6 here?
Knight d6 here. Okay. So check, check. And then my rook is hanging, huh? So simple. Okay, so check.
Check, I'll go king h2.
No choice. h7 is hanging.
Hitting f7, hitting b7.
It is true. It is true. All tactics today.
Yeah, most of them don't work, but they are tactics.
But they're good. No, in this case, this looks pretty darn good. So it does mean that I have to take it very seriously. Strangely enough, I thought I had d6 covered, so you really caught me unawares there.
Well, it is defended twice.
Yeah.
But
Shame
the
on
biship
me.
a little overworked guarding
So
d8.
we'll start with check, and I guess we've got to just
Back to b6.
make sure that that knight d6 doesn't come with a nasty tempo.
Yeah. And then maybe the less effective way would be for white to take d8. And I was guessing you wanted to take the bishop to keep b7 under wraps.
I did.
And now if I play knight d6,
Yes.
I still have f7 attacked, but my knight is going to run into some issues on this square, I think.
Yes. So I could play here, but it's still it might happen.
Yeah, that's
No, we can't do that.
It's hard to make it work, right?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a perpetual check, actually. But okay, intriguing game for sure. And again, we'll just keep our eyes glued on this one. And
Okay.
which other game? Let's go back to the A group and take a look at Ray Robson's game.
Of course.
I don't think we've seen Ray. And Ray Robson, of course, he's coming in as the #1 seed, and he is
Playing
in the worst no man's land of the Grandmasters today. Essentially, he
2695.
right, but he's outside of that top 10,
Of course.
which is just, so important for the Grand Chess Tour
Yeah.
to get invited to these top tournaments. Sorry to our good viewers in Norway chess, we're stealing you away for this Summer Classics. But so he's outside of that group, and he's just on the bubble of the Olympic team.
Yeah.
So we have,
think of these
Fabi,
players like
Levon, Lanier,
Liang.
Hikaru, and then Ray is fighting with Sam Sevian, Sam Shankland. So it's sort of like, he needs to get like
20 more rating points.
exactly,
And then
let's
he'll be
see,
in. but-
and then he's out of this no man's land. Let's see where he is. Where is
Looks like he's
Ray?
playing Ante Brkic, our fourth matchup there.
This was the Berlin game. Remember when we left it, we saw this moment of knight e4, queen e7.
Okay.
Good move, queen e2, but good move means, wow, so strange. Like for me, I'm not hesitating here one bit. I'm trading everything on e4, and then I'm playing king f8, and I'm thinking it's a 3-result game.
Yeah.
King f8, knight d2, take. Okay, this is just, sorry to say, very
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get too much here.
This is very, very even looking position.
If they were allowed to offer draws, they probably would have.
They would,
But they're not.
But they're not
so
allowed.
we'll see how the GMs draw the drawn game.
Exactly. Let's go to the game of Nikolas for a
Yeah,
moment.
this is a really interesting one that we haven't gotten to touch on yet. But
Nikolas made a huge error right here. So essentially, right now, he's got more or less an ideal position as white.
Okay.
He has a Benoni with a unobstructed light squared bishop. The bishop on f3 is
Beautiful.
beautiful for the dual purpose of defending the king and blasting on the queen side. So in this position, the most important thing is to play b4
Of course.
and b5.
Yeah.
Okay. So the automatic move here is to play knight a3. So I'm not saying this is the good or bad way for black to play, but okay, now you have to more or less stop b4, and then I'm going to play b3.
And then a3, and then b4.
And bishop b2 and rook b1. I am going to get in b4.
Yeah, if you don't stop it, then the game ends.
Yeah, and if you ever play queen d7, I am voluntarily bringing my bishop back to g2,
Yeah.
and I would consider that this position is an advantage white. Okay, but what he did is he absolutely misplayed the game by playing e4. Not only did he lock his bishop, made his bishop worse.
Yeah.
But this bishop on c5 that was doing nothing, that was just the big pawn, suddenly, oops,
En passant, and here we are.
the bishop became a
Yeah,
powerhouse on
Not
d4.
only the bishop, but opening up the d file, and now black's pieces are happy to occupy the d4 square.
Fantastic
d3 is a bit
squares.
of a target,
Yeah.
and
Now,
black has
a5,
found some nice squares.
that is a strange move. a5. Okay, sorry, I'm just trying to get the zen of the position here.
So you were maybe worried about b5 after a5? I mean, it's a sacrifice, but
Sorry, say that again?
maybe
Taylor?
after a5, you're concerned that white might get some b5?
No,
maybe
I was
not
concerned of
immediately,
knight a4 to knight to b6.
Ah, of course.
I'm wondering why he voluntarily gave that square. I'm really kind of confused. So in my mind, this pawn on d3 is the weakness.
Rook a8.
Rook a d8, automatic. Really nothing really much to discuss there.
It's one of Julian in St. Louis, one of his favorite moves, Rook
Yeah.
a d8, because
Yeah.
it says radiate.
Radiate.
Yeah, one of those funny notation
Yeah.
jokes.
If I can also maybe point out a mistake, in my view, that black made is the d4 square is this beautiful transitory square.
Okay.
You want it vacant.
Yes.
You don't want it occupied. Like in effect, the move b4, it kicks the knight, and where would I really like the knight? On d4.
Exactly.
So after the move b4, I would be very excited to play bishop takes e3, rook takes e3 in order to defend the pawn on d3, knight.
And then knight e6.
Knight e6, and then I'm putting my knight on d4, and this is a whole different kettle of fish. Now I feel like it's really play on one goal.
Yeah, so versus something like the current position before a5, I
Where-
guess, where knight e6,
Where after the move bishop
yeah,
to
bishop
d2,
e2, it's not so easy to get to the
Yeah.
d4 square now.
yeah, my bishop's kind of good, but also
It'd be
stuck.
better if it were a knight.
Okay, let's see what happened, because what has happened is a kind of a crazy
Kind of a mess.
position.
Bit of a mess
A
here.
lot of chaos going on the board. h4, g4. And now let me see if we're up to date with the play. Wow, did you see how
The board changed.
board changed? That wasn't me. All I did was hit refresh.
That's okay. I think it looks normal on our show. I think something might be going on with our monitor. But that's
Our monitor.
Yeah.
Okay.
sorry, we just get candy corn colors.
Terrible.
So why not AB4?
A before. Okay. A before. A.
You know that this must have been why we played A5.
You're
We
right.
should throw it on there. And yeah, I really have to agree that Black seems to have messed this up. I don't see what we're doing on this A file. The knight on b6 is annoying, and black really needs to watch that c5 square.
Yeah.
Otherwise, b5 is going to be a hard move to face.
Right. Here, again, I just feel like a couple of our pieces are wrongly placed. I don't like the rook on a6. I don't like the bishop on d4.
Yeah.
So let's see if I can solve them.
I like
play
that move.
rook a1, get rid of one ugly piece for a moment.
Yeah, and what to do here? I don't think I want to... Actually, I think I do want to take you on a1.
Okay.
And I didn't want to at first because it opens the d4 square for your knight. But I'm
Right.
thinking now I can play either queen a2. I think queen a2.
Makes a lot
and
of sense.
your bishop's going to have to go right back.
Agreed.
And now I will sit and think of a move. Maybe g5, g6 is a problem.
G5. G5 tickles the knight.
Yeah, I guess I have to be certain because this knight f4 stuff is coming, but I was wondering about g6.
Okay.
And I'll take f7,
Oh.
and I've improved all of your pieces.
Strangely enough, the knight is actually really good now on f4, and
Yeah.
the bishop is actually pretty good suddenly on d4.
So yeah, it's not g5, g6. I liked what we did here with this
Queen a2, bishop
queen
d4.
a2, bishop d4, but it's hard to find the next move.
We haven't reached the zook point for white quite yet.
I agree. Maybe the knight should come back to c4.
And route itself to d6. That might be a safer or better square.
Yeah, it's just a little
Improvement?
hesitant to give up the d5 square, because I think if we move our knight, black might try to occupy that square as well.
Right.
And the same
do
idea
it.
as after g5 is the knight comes into f4.
Yeah. The same thing. I mean, the move h4 was played purposefully some time ago. Clearly, black was hopeful that after h4 or g4, he'd be able to play, as you just described it, the knight coming to d5 and the knight coming to f4. All right. Interesting game. First impressions are that I like black. I think he had more of a advantage earlier. I think he's let it slip a little, and the position's a little bit chaotic. Benjamin Bach, Andrew.
Yeah, let's check out this game.
h4. Wow. h4. Okay. That. Rook takes e4, bishop takes e4, rook e4, bishop f4, bishop d6, h4. Ambitious. So with the move h4, obviously white wants to play the move h5 and to drive the knight, but my goodness, I'm a little bit, I would be a little bit concerned if I was Benjamin. I would be a little bit worried that bishop to g4 and didn't, you know, you play, Victor Korchnoi would always say to me, Yasser, you do know that pawns don't move backwards. You know, so like I would play a move like h4, weakening the g4 square, and
Yeah.
you'd be like critical of me by saying to me like, okay, but here he's got an idea. Benjamin does. He's got an idea. Bishop takes and Zwischenzug.
Always the tactics.
Always the tactics. So h4 does carry a threat.
Well, hold on. Are those good tactics? If
I think so.
Bishop g4, bishop g6. If I just take on e2, what is the line?
I take on h7.
Go king h8.
I take on e2.
I am down a piece.
For the moment.
Okay, so then yeah, that works. I was like, I'm winning the bishop. This
Yes,
is great.
but
I lost a piece.
Lost a piece. Yeah.
So
I
demands a response then, I suppose.
I guess it's not like the knight was any great shakes on g6. At a certain moment, I can imagine Benjamin would wanting to play the move g2, g3. This was a very nice description that David Bronstein gave in his book on the candidates, Zurich, 1953, Theory and Practice. So he explained that the move H4 was like a needle and a thread.
Okay.
And that you pulled the pawn forward. You pulled the pawn with the needle forward. You put the pawn on H4, and it's almost an automatic that you would play G3. So
I see. Yeah.
It
So
pulls its colleague
I get you.
with it, right? So once you play the move H4, it's almost like obligatory that you're going to go G3 or King G2 type of thing. And then the question is, did you really mean to play G3?
Exactly.
Did you mean to play H4 or not? Don't know. I mean, it's still...
If H4 means you're playing G3 and G3 means you're playing King G2, then do you want to make all three of those moves?
Yeah, exactly. You know, you got to start, you know, just kind of being aware that there are certain tactics here, like takes,
giving yourself stuff to think about.
F5, right?
Ooh.
So the idea is if the bishop moves, I want to check and then take the knight.
Check and take.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to start to play 95.
But we give up our bishop.
Right. So it's an intriguing game that is going on here. Again, that is the game between Benjamin Bach and Andrew. H4. I would have been hesitant to play the move H4 myself, and again, I would have been probably more enthused by moves like D5 and quite possibly Knight G5. Knight G5 is like one of those moves that might just be irritating.
Sure. Yeah, I liked your suggestion of D5. Like, the danger with something like D5 is if it's mistimed, then...
You've got a good blockade.
Yeah, but if it's timed correctly, then gives black some issues.
Well, again, this bishop on B2, it's a lurker.
It's
right?
just waiting. It's waiting for the pawn to go.
Yeah, get me into the game, coach. Get me into the game. Come on, coach. Like, get me into the game.
There's also some, fun ideas of... they teach you these ways of pushing your center pawns without giving up squares. Like, you can sometimes play C5 first and follow it up with the immediate D5.
Right. And
this is also some tactical ideas.
Right.
Here, I think it would probably lose the pawn.
Right.
Barring some tactics. But,
exactly. But, I mean, one of the reasons why you might want to play a move like C5 is this idea that you could... potentially win the E5 square for your... this is something I probably want to avoid as black.
I would think so.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go there. Moves like C5, by the way, I've always associated very strongly with Emanuel Lasker. As a world champion, he did these moves, C5 in hanging pawn structures, and also in the what do you call that? The Ruy Lopez exchange variation.
Sure.
You have 4 versus 3 on the king side, and you would have something like E4 pawn and an F3 pawn.
Yes.
Versus an F6 pawn.
Okay.
Yeah? And he was very. He beat Capablanca by playing F4 and F5.
All right.
And not F4 and E5, which you might think.
That's what you would expect to push the passed pawns.
Exactly.
But yeah,
So,
something like this where you start to leave squares behind, like the dark squares on D6, on E5.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've always associated Emanuel Lasker with those variations. By the way, Ray Robson. This, I think, is the downside of not being able to offer a draw.
Yeah,
I do expect that the players will discover a way of playing King E2 and King E3 and King E7 and King E6. But that game is well on its way to a draw. Nikolas, yes. Just as
so that Knight C4, Knight D5 thing did happen. And
yes.
I I wasn't so pleased with that way of playing with white because
G7, G6, by the way, may have been to prevent your G5, G6 idea.
That idea was, just kind of there. Maybe it didn't work right away, but it's something to think about. But after knight d5, this could be big trouble if knight f4 lands on the board.
Okay, so let's imagine what can Nikolas do about this. Thinking outside of the box here just for a second. If I take on d5...
I was going to suggest that, but I thought I would get banned from ever talking about the English again if I suggested bishop takes d5.
Well, the reason why I find myself a little bit attracted to it is I have a good news. The rook is defended, so I can actually go into d6 without worrying about losing to a tactic.
Yes.
And I have, however, temporarily, I do have the f4 square covered, and I am threatening to pick up a pawn.
There are threats. Everything's defended. Makes sense to me. So I thought rook takes d5 seemed like the response.
Okay. Rook takes d5 it is. And now?
Well, I thought you might still try this knight d6.
And that's a big question to me. As you play chess and as you gain a lot of experience, one of the things that's really fantastic about knights that you'll discover is that knights get better the more they're protected.
Okay.
So this knight on d6 is excellent because it has the pawn on c5.
Yeah.
But it would be even more powerful if there was a pawn on e5.
Yeah.
Because then, I'm not just sacrificing the exchange with rook takes d6 and getting a knight and a pawn, but, and if there was no pawn on e5 and I had a bishop on h2, the knight on d6 would be stronger.
The game would be ending.
So, exactly. So, whenever you see these powerful knights, you want to make them more powerful by protecting them further. Or, if you're on the flip side, you always have to say, can I undermine the protection of the knight? So now the question is, what happens after b6?
Well, I think craziness. The simple way seems like knight e4, but I was wondering about something silly like b5.
And that is craziness too.
Yeah.
Right?
There's knight c5 to think about.
Right.
But there's rook c5 in reply.
What's the body count on that, by the way? Knight c5, you said there's...
so rook c5, rook a1 but rook a1, rook c1?
Well, then I just won a pawn, though, right?
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, I was thinking you would do something else, and I would play ba6 and try to make a queen, but rook a1 is nice.
Rook a1 check. This solves my issues.
So it must be knight e4.
Okay, so there is knight e4. Okay, so the good news for white is that check is an issue. So let me stop it for just a moment.
And again, I'm thinking about b5, but maybe I should play the little simpler, just cb6.
Okay, but then, at least from black's point of view, in this case, a moment ago there was this great knight on d6 that scared the bejesus out of us. And now suddenly the knight's on e4 where it's a little bit more benign.
I would agree.
Yeah, so...
But also, okay, maybe in the same line, let's say...
So let me just, sorry to interrupt you, Caleb. Sure. I'm just going to do a refresh. So we've been looking at bishop takes d5, rook takes d5. Go ahead, continue your thought.
I think you're right that pawn takes is just good for white. So again, knight d6.
Yes.
And we're thinking about b6.
Yes.
And I was saying knight e4, king g7.
Yes.
And maybe now again I can try this b5 move.
Okay.
And
b5 move.
I'm attacking all of your rooks. All of them.
All of them.
There's not a single rook on the board I'm not attacking.
Indeed, you've got a good point there. Not a single rook. Okay, so I have to move my rook. I'm a little bit worried that my c6 pawn is vulnerable, so I've got to take off your rook.
I think I'm happy to take on a1 just because it puts your bishop on a square where maybe one day I'll gain a tempo.
Exactly.
For example, maybe the day is today. And I can play queen a4 and aim for taking on b6 and then taking on c6.
Fair, fair. That looks like a very, very good idea indeed. Fair indeed. And so you can take on b6.
With the tempo?
With the tempo, and then on c6.
Yes.
Okay, so...
And I don't know anything about the position, but I've taken one of your pawns.
Yes.
And you haven't yet taken me back.
Right, okay, but I will. Yeah. I will play knight to d4.
Knight d4 does seem to do it.
And there's a tempo against the rook. This, because the material has been so reduced, it feels like a draw might be... a fair result.
I will say this rook on e2 is not so good still.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, why isn't that rook on, like, a1 so we could, you know, like, pester on the queen side?
Yeah.
A 2-to-1 time advantage, by the way, in the position on the clock.
Yeah, in a position like this, though, I think that just means, you know, Temur is going to get one extra move to take a deep think, and then it'll be level, because it's definitely the kind of position where you're spending some serious time every move.
Yeah, but for me, I was in my career, I was conscious of the clock, and I really liked it when I was ahead big time.
Yeah.
Like I say, anytime I'm ahead 2-to-1 on the clock, then I start undeservedly, I must admit, thinking, you know, like I'm looking for cheapos now. You know, like I can take advantage of my opponent's clock.
100%. And to remind the viewers, there is no second time control. There's no move 40 we're heading to where they get a bunch of time on their clock. No. What you see is what you get.
And again, for those of you who are joining us late, we did mention in our format, it's 120 minutes. Both players are getting 2 hours on their clock. They can use the 2 hours any way they like it. 30-second bonus for every move they complete. What I mean by complete, of course, is they move, press the clock. Sometimes they move, they fail to press the clock.
This is true.
Yeah, and by the way, we do have knight d6, so we're going into the sharpest
surprising
line.
To me, because I really...
Now the question is, what is Nick going to going to do against knight f4?
I thought it was worth taking that knight off the board.
I did too. This
frightening.
First thoughts, we were mentioning that the rook on e2 is no great shakes, but
maybe e4 is the square where it's going.
Ooh, okay, e4. I thought for some reason I had the idea that he might be thinking.
No, rook a2.
No, but it's wrong. D3 would be hanging in that case.
Yes.
So rook e4.
Yeah, my rook's so bad I'm gonna take a minor piece with it. I think that's where I'm at. Not yet, but later.
I'm not a fan of this in any shape or form for white.
Yeah.
I think that black is clearly for choice in this case. I'm just going to bring my rooks to a2 and b2 and the other rook. And for the moment, this knight on d6 is hitting f7, but it's a kind of a lone wolf. It doesn't, it can't do the job by itself.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the answers here.
No, I'm not seeing the answers either. I know where I'm looking from Black's point of view.
By the way, we were, Nikolas was hesitant to take on d5, giving up the bishop for the knight. But in this line, Black just gets to take the bishop under better circumstances.
Right.
As well.
Yeah, because a moment there, I could double the rooks on the a file, and the other line, my rook was kind of on d5. Maybe it's good, but I don't know.
Rook a8 seems like a better square than d5. D5, at least the rook was a bit of a target,
And just the simple move, rook e2 to e1.
And back.
Okay. I took this guy because I thought the bishop was good. I now realize the bishop's not going anywhere.
This is true.
So I might just start with the desirable rook a8, and I feel that
This
this
bishop
is
on
just,
d4 now just completely controls a1.
and more importantly, you know, if you can go rook a2, rook takes f2, that would be just a total splat.
It'd be nice.
Yeah. Well, we know what's on Black's agenda. Keep our eye on this one. Where would you like to go? Should we check out on the B group?
Yeah, there was a move played, I think.
Please.
Just, I'm interested what Black decided. He did go rook da8, and...
We saw a nice pick of the players there on cam.
We can go somewhere else, but Yasser, is Black winning on the next turn? Like, I don't...
Winning is strong. Yeah, the question is, what am I supposed to do,
Rook
right?
a3 and then d3 hangs, and I do not see how you stop that.
Okay, so
So
I'm
that's
not
why
a fan.
I say, is Black just winning?
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Queen c4.
And if I go rook a3?
Again, apologies, I am not a fan, but at least I don't feel like I'm resigning, you know.
And if knight g2,
King g2,
knight f4 check, you go to which square?
presumably f1. I know. It just feels like I'm looking for the knockout blow. It just feels good. It does feel good to be Black, but just...
It's not so solid for Black either, I guess. Now that I have bishop c3, d4 is maybe...
Yeah,
maybe
I mean, in these positions, one of the things that you try to comfort yourself with is counterplay. I have some counterplay. Like, please, you know. In my mind's eye, I would start to, to think, how can I open the e file, bishop takes, and opening up the e file for my rook, so I'll have something like, I don't care, knight e8, those kinds of things. By the way, clocks.
The game continues.
Yes, it does, for the moment. Clock times. Oh, guess what?
Knight back to c4.
Knight back to c4.
Also makes stopping rook a3.
Well, but then it makes us think the whole knight to d6 to
c4
to d6 to c4.
What's the
kind of this whole toing and froing was very impressive, but what did we actually accomplish with it all?
To be honest, we can go somewhere else soon, but I'm starting to get really worried after knight takes g2 about something like, so king takes, I was even something like queen d8.
Okay.
And I'm really asking questions about your light squares.
Right.
I guess you have knight takes d5 guarding that.
Knight takes e5.
Yeah, I was trying to find some way to get my queen in, but maybe not yet.
Sorry, let's just see. Knight to c4, and...
I was just noticing that now all of a sudden the d5 square is undefended again.
Right. And plucking the queen from c7 to d5. For me, I like the idea. I've always thought of it as a kind of a different way. So you want to get your pieces into the game.
Yeah.
Which pieces do you want to get into the game sooner and faster?
The
minor
minors,
pieces.
and then the rooks.
And then the
and
rook.
then the queen.
And then the queen. The reason why the minors come first and the rooks come second and the queen comes last is because the latter two, the major pieces, are so easy to get into the game. Like, it takes a lot of maneuvering to get the knight to the damn f4 square. I mean, it took us like 3, 6, 7, 8 moves, and we had to preface it with h4.
Yeah.
Conversely, you play a move like rook a2, you're in. You're in. You're in. Now your whole idea is there with queen to d8. That really starts to look very, very purposeful. I like it.
Bit more impact.
Yeah, impactful. Yes. So I guess you'd have to play rook c2 here. Am I wrong?
I think you can.
Can I? That is my question. Can I play rook c2?
I don't see why not.
So there's no, That's kind of funny. I'm trying to wrong foot you, but I don't know if I'm doing it.
So I'll ask the same question as before. Okay, Rook A1 is also a move, but I don't know why I like this idea so much. I was thinking Rook C2, Queen C2, Knight G2, King G2, and again, Queen D8.
Let's go and to try to, but then Queen to D8. So
Knight B6 defends the square, but then I do get Rook A3.
It's funny. I'm not a big fan
Knight back to D6.
of what white has done, but at least I'm trying to stop.
Well, I'm thinking again, your earlier idea, so Queen F6 is nice, but also B6 is something to
Undermining the knight,
to worry about.
and with reason to worry.
Yeah. That was my hesitation of bringing it back, is just we've spent so much time now that maybe black is set up to actually take advantage of that.
This looks like a clear advantage for black in all of these variations. Yes, so Nikolas is definitely in trouble. Shall we take a look at the B group for a second?
Definitely.
Because we had
So
left
I think this
the
was
Irina
our
Krush.
analysis. But yeah, if
We had left the Irina.
we get a new color every time we refresh.
It's amazing.
I don't know what that's about, but okay.
Okay, let me just see that. Yes, we did. We got
Yeah,
a new
maybe
color.
I can
Please
work some magic here.
do your thing.
You know, the brown was okay. The green is a bit too much.
Yeah. Now I've always liked the.
I'm sorry. This one is
that
not
was
doing it for me either.
No.
We'll go back to the
al-
normal brown.
I've
Okay, we're in business.
I've always liked the wooden chessboard. Let's see. So we left it thinking that.
So
well,
H3 was the choice.
Queen
A3?
A3. Okay, little stopping Queen Rook C1.
I guess, yeah.
Ooh.
So-
Knight C5. Look at this. What
more,
a move.
More big tactics. So winning the exchange, and there have been better exchanges won, but there have been a lot worse.
Peter Svidler, one of the great practitioners of the Grunfeld, will explain to you very clearly that black is more than fine. Like, you can't lose these positions with the bishop, and if white overpresses, you know, like for example, let's say I play A5.
Okay.
And the idea is I want to play H5 and bishop to C5. And if you do something long, we trade queens on B5. And I get to go A4, A3.
Okay.
And then suddenly, you know, like the question is, you know, are you losing with white? If you get the whole queen side off the board, it's still a draw. 3
Yes.
versus 2, rook and bishop, rook versus bishop on the same side is an easy draw. The fact is that these pawns aren't so easy to gobble. Bishop on C5. Here, by the way, I notice that I should probably be starting with H5. Just, you know, like, that's like the
Otherwise-
start. That's the safest.
Yeah, white might go G4, I suppose.
yeah.
And this is one way to introduce a problem for black.
any kind of potential problems, yeah. But I think that this black is very satisfied. It should be.
My understanding is if the side with the bishop, if their king gets weak, then the side with the rook has chances to win. Or if the side with the rook can make some kind of passed pawn, then there's winning chances.
Exactly.
Here you just can't do either of those. Black doesn't really have big weaknesses to attack.
Right.
And so I would agree with you that black is doing A-okay.
Absolutely. Let's see where else Melik has made a draw.
And Raja has drawn
Okay.
against Akshat.
Because when we left it, it was a nice extra pawn for black, and maybe even 2.
That is.
We left it here.
He chose a E5. That's
E5.
interesting.
Yeah, and we had. I had found myself drawn to the move bishop takes B2, because, you know, it's funny. It's easy to get compensation for a pawn.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, lots of things. Just 2 bishops.
Easy enough.
Could be enough compensation. It's harder much harder to get a good compensation for 2 pawns. So
would
e5, b3, knight d5. Let's go. Still looks like it's all for black. Black is looking very good. Very good. What's the problem?
Suddenly they just started repeating.
King g8. Okay, that might be in a time trouble issue too. Queen. I like the queen on e7.
Yeah, it seems like we're drifting.
We are. Queen to e7. Don't like that move so much. Okay. Queen e. Okay, and this is where he.
Suddenly the game was over.
Wow. Well, I'm going to say that Raja kind of got fortunate. I don't know if time trouble was an issue. It looks like it was actually, as I'm looking at the clock.
Yeah, Akshat ended with just under 50 seconds on his clock.
Right.
I think, yeah, if Bishop b2 had been played, Raja would have had a lot more to prove.
Indeed.
Maybe he was up to the task and had something
all
in
worked
mind,
out.
But
who knows? Who knows? And
been a bit
Begum, when we left it, she was suffering. She was a pawn down, and unfortunately for her, she was almost a favorite to lose a second pawn. When we left it, we were just about here, and there goes that second pawn, by the way.
Yeah, the second pawn falls off the board.
What were we just talking about? Second pawns? 1 pawn up, 2 pawns up?
Yeah, this time there's not even compensation for one. Whoa! Queen d1 check. Oh my goodness.
That is a nasty, quite the visual. Ooh.
Yeah, and now we're here.
And now we're here.
Yeah, that's tough to get around.
Right. No, this should just be winning. For me, it's oops.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could just snap that, and now rook d3 to follow, and both pieces are hanging.
Okay. Well, this is f5.
It
Rook
must
takes
be, I
f3
guess.
and f5.
Yeah.
That is quite simple. Yes, that's a nice finish. And if rook to d3, queen to e4, well, oops. That's all she wrote.
3 pawns.
Yeah. Nice. It looks like a fine finish here.
Stephen
for Stephen.
heading towards the first victory.
Exactly. And again, let's check in on the prodigies, Andy and Alice, because
So when we left it, I liked what Andy had done, and I thought this bishop c5 let Andy sort of get some ideas in.
but rook c7 was Alice's move.
So she did manage to contest this file. I think that's really
the key.
everything.
Yeah. Still, knight to e3, double rooks, trade. I don't know what to make of this final position, by the way. I kind of feeling that I might be a little bit better with white, just because I have ideas. I have ideas of h3. I have ideas of king to d3, a4 maybe on a good day, rook a4.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I should play the move a5 with black.
Okay.
And
So after king d3,
I'll go ahead and plant my knight on b6.
that's a good idea, just to stop me from playing knight to c4. That looks like an even Steven
So
position.
that's why I wanted to play a5, because otherwise I thought maybe white would play a5, take that b6 square away from me, and then
Right.
I could have difficulty. But
Andy maybe a little bit more ambitious,
just goes d5.
goes d5.
d5, what's up? d5, what's up?
Give me one of your pawns, says Andy to Alice. Whoa, he did take it. Whoa, okay, knight takes f5, was it? He went rook
It's a little,
in. Okay.
little hard for me to understand, but
Whoa. This is...
I think we're back to double-edged here.
Yeah.
Because I thought for a moment just knight takes f5
And white was to be preferred, at
one-way
least.
traffic, but all of a sudden there's a d pawn, and maybe
Well,
there's back rank mates going on.
I don't know. This looks like it could be...
Yeah, let's play some moves. I'll go king f7.
King f7. Okay, what can I say? I'm going to
Take the guy.
channel my inner Andy here.
And if I just continue with d3,
Okay, I like it. I like it. Knight d6 check. What is this rook ending?
I think I can make a draw here. I'll go check, check, and start with the king side pawns. Take on g2.
That's first on the menu, and maybe
Now we'll take b2.
second on the menu.
A little back and forth.
So yeah, so at the end of the day, I'll be a pawn up with white, but that will be an easy draw.
Yeah, so if
Easy
you go
draw.
after my b pawn, I'll take h2.
Right.
And then my g pawn is so far advanced that you'll have to make some sacrifices to stop
Exactly.
me.
Exactly.
I can
Easily draw that.
Yeah.
Easily draw. So it looks like that is, and by the way, she
Just
didn't
knight
play
f6.
knight.
So Alice holding on to the pawns.
Well, I
For a moment.
imagine the greed. I like the greed. Just what's going on after knight
It must
c2?
be rook d8.
Rook d8. You say?
Maybe.
Yummy.
And if I go to d3, are you in time to collect that pawn? I was thinking king f7.
I will collect the pawn, as you said.
And okay, I'll throw in king g7, make you go to some awkward square.
Yeah, it is true, but
And at the end of the day, I'm not getting him back.
I got two.
And knight e4 check.
That's the check. It's still only a check.
Rook d4, I guess. And I'm just going to try and play with some activity while your rook's off in Off in fantasy lands.
Right. Even so, it's
Two
a
pawns.
it's a two result game.
Yeah, two pawns is enough.
Yeah, black this isn't the way Alice needed to go.
Yeah, I don't like that move knight f6. I liked just king f7.
Seven.
Just
Yeah, that
play
felt better.
actively.
That felt a lot better. Knight f6. Sorry, that is my analysis. Knight c2.
Knight c2 on the
By
board.
the way, knight c2 is on the board. Rook to d8, and we were
Following
looking at
this
knight
line.
takes b4.
And yeah, maybe d3 was too early. Maybe I can start with king f7 and play in a similar way, but keep my d pawn alive.
Much better. In this particular case, though, I do get a good blockade.
That's why I wanted to start with d3, but
I know.
if it can't be done, it can't be done.
Right.
Better to have a blockade than your knight on d3 and my pawn's dead.
Right.
So yeah, I'll
So-
go king g7 again,
And again,
go to
my rook is
go to
on
your
a.
square.
Wow. It's not a joy for me to put my rook on the square, I must say. But on the other hand, king d1, h3, slowly. My rook is really miserable on
I think
h4.
here I might get some sort of back and forth with my rook. Like rook e8 would encourage knight e5.
Right.
And then I'll switch sides and go rook c8. Just kind
Going
of
back
poke
and
and
forth.
prod and try and find a way in.
The poke and prod routine.
Yeah, there's also like knight d5 after knight e5 to think about.
Right.
But I don't want to
This
give up
rook,
with rook
by
h5.
the way, is so ugly. King f7. Okay, just a second. I'm having a brain infarction. I take on a6.
Okay, and
King g7. I take on f6. And I'm trying to play this crazy position where I have
maybe
two pass pawns.
can I be so bold at the end there to take your h pawn? I think you might just be a little too fast with b5, b6. So yeah, maybe here instead of king g7, I can save some time and just go d3.
Okay, fair.
If I know your plan is to capture me.
Anyway, right?
And now if you don't take me, I have knight e4. With
Okay.
some scary stuff.
True that. So I really do have to stop knight e4. Yes.
Did you stop knight e4?
I don't know.
I'm gonna go knight e4.
Maybe anyway. So this is a three. Yeah, this is scary because these pawns are, no. I mean, I could play knight takes, but then I've got
two pawns
three,
for a piece
no,
is
three.
different, or 3 pawns for a
Three
piece.
pawns
but
for a
the 2
piece.
passers is...
But the problem is my rook also is not, if my rook were on a2 and I could play knight takes d3 and a5, I might be more enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Here, no. I'm going to refresh my board. Hopefully it'll come up wood. It did. And this is our current position. We're following the game between Andy and Alice.
So
and we just
a pretty big
tried
decision point, right? Knight a6 or knight
and
d3?
Knight d3, yes. Because this rook is really yuckadoo on h4. It's really bad. I'm not a friend at all of that. Okay, so once again,
I don't know how you
pawn.
ever save it. Like, I think your knight a6 idea might be the way to go, just because,
yeah,
like, if we don't take the knight, how does the rook ever play? Like, even after rook h4, even if you get h3 after g3, you still just have no squares.
exactly. I'm stuck. Your king is stuck, but I'm a rook down. So knight takes a4. How did you do this again, Caleb?
I started with d3.
I went knight back.
And knight e4.
And knight e4.
And now, just the simple line is, if you take me, I take back. And if you go king d2, I go e3 check.
Exactly.
And I do get a queen there.
Exactly.
The complicated line is something else. I don't know.
Well, the complicated line would be something like this, right?
Yes.
Rook takes, king takes, b, and this, I think, I could be taking severe risks with my life here, because
I think your pawns are far enough back that something like rook d4, maybe I throw in d2 check and then rook d4, because I think if I get one of your queenside pawns for my d pawn, I'm not in bad shape.
Okay, so let's see.
And now I should bring my king somehow. I'll go king e6.
Okay.
And I'll just go to d6 for now and think later.
Think later.
I'll go to c6.
Think later. Yeah. And it's true, right? I mean,
Wondering if you would play knight c5, actually.
knight c5?
Is that legal?
Maybe.
b7, a6. You caught me.
Gotcha.
So no knight c5, knight
No
c7.
knight c5, but this is not, I think this is what my friend Bruce Harper might describe as playing for a loss.
With white.
Yes, I could be playing for a loss here with this rook takes f6.
But on the other hand, it's hard to suggest something else.
Well, yeah, I was playing over ambitiously. I'll refresh and this is the moment of truth for young Andy. Knight takes a6 or the move knight d3. Now, what we've come to realize, is that after knight d3, king g7, rook h4, let's say knight, you even went rook e8. The problem for us is our rook is really screwed. I mean, we're h3, g3.
Yeah. And
how do we get ourselves back in civilization?
rook h5 is just king g6 there, so it's really hard to tell.
And
I think
other move you like.
Andy did play a move.
He did?
I think it was knight d3 was his choice. Yeah.
Solid. King g7, rook h4 on the
I was
board.
thinking about that rook e8 move.
Yep.
And rook c8 first.
Maybe it's a similar idea. What Alice wants to do is to bring her rook to c4. So, for example, I don't want to encourage knight e4.
I don't think so, yeah.
So we do something like this. And this is, well, what else can I do? You tell me b3.
3 rook c3. Oy.
I know. It's not my brightest
And
moment.
I'll continue with knight e4.
Okay, knight e4. Okay.
Until I see why not.
I'm going to allow a perpet. Let me just say that I'm not adverse to walking out of here with a half a point in my pocket.
Sure.
You know.
So I could play king g6, but you do get out with rook h8.
That's right. Yeah. That was my dream.
And I can give you this check. You'll go to d2.
Yep.
So what's the ambitious way to play? Maybe d3.
D3 is very, very ambitious. I can't imagine that I won't be able to sacrifice my knight.
d2?
But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. d2.
I guess knight e2, but then rook b3 I wanted.
Knight e2, rook b3, and I have no choice, right? I have to guard the d1 square.
And if I go rook b2?
So now you're threatening...
Threatening checkmate.
Checkmate. Checkmate is a very, very good threat. Knight c3...
I'll take it.
Mate.
Yeah.
And if I move my out of the way...
Still knight c3.
Still knight c3. Yeah. Got me. Okay, so rook takes f5. Oops, excuse me. Right here.
And d2 was the plan.
Well, these active pieces... Okay, so once again, sorry, I probably blundered here. Rook takes d2, knight
takes,
and
it's just check.
It's just
rook b1.
Straight up check, yeah. Yeah. No, this looks, wait a minute, hold on. Is it, I think it's convincing, right?
Yeah, I thought rook b2.
Yeah.
And again, knight c3 is mate. If you don't move your knight, I'll just take it. And
yeah, check.
Yeah, knight f2, d1 double check.
Right.
Makes a queen. Yeah, sort of dealer's choice there.
Yeah.
So rook c8 was the move, and Andy needs to find a way to defend this position. It looks like b3, I think, would just give it up. Well, so we were saying king d1, rook c4.
Right.
And so I think b3 is the beginning of the end.
Well, there, I think one of the ways I could bail, if you will, is, hold on, I went here, right?
And we started with d3.
Yeah.
So I don't see the bail.
3 pawns?
Well,
no.
Also, I should
because
say,
G2,
instead of d3,
yes.
I think it is just a better version if I go king g6 and you go rook h8.
Right.
I don't think that spoils anything, and I get to hold on to my f-pawn. And yeah, now d3.
Okay, but this...
now you have rook d8, though.
Yes.
Okay, I like my first one better.
Exactly.
Until I'm proven otherwise, I
Right.
liked d3.
Right. So my desirable move, knight d3, knight takes d3, rook takes d3, king c2, trying to hold on to all my pawns, unfortunately runs into rook d2 check, followed by rook
King
takes
g6,
g2.
rook
And
g2.
that is not, this is not what I wanted at all.
I see Andy has his king on d2, so maybe he did encourage this knight e4 somehow.
Okay, I'm going to refresh my board.
Yeah, king d2 was played, but
wow.
this seems like a worse version of some other stuff. Yeah, we don't even have to start with it, but we can. And now rook c4 still.
I guess the difference is that he's trying to get his king. In this case, he's going to give up the a pawn right away.
Well, yeah, my question is, why did we start with knight e4? Why not just rook c4
check.
again?
And I blundered check, by the way.
Ah, yeah.
King d2.
King
if
D2.
you go rook c4...
So back a move?
Back move, pardon me. Yes. So rook c4 right away.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love giving check, but we can do it later.
There. Okay. Rook c4 right away. I think...
And if you go b3, then I'll go ahead and play my check.
Yeah.
Rook c3, and
I think
d3 again.
It's time just to give up the stupid a pawn. Like, just let it go. I mean...
So I'll play my g3 idea, try to keep you stuck for the moment.
Indeed. Okay. Okay, so...
Okay.
At a certain point, I think you're going to have to play knight e4. I hope.
That makes sense. So I'll do it. Convinced me.
It didn't take much. You're easy. I convinced you too easily. You acquiesced.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm thinking knight f2, but I think you might just go back with king d2.
Yes,
and
that was my intention.
Maybe knight c5 is a slightly better way to go about things.
Now?
Yeah.
I will be very happy to go into any kind of rook ending.
Takes, and it's hard to say. And
By
I
the
think
way,
we do
have a result.
Yeah, a result. It
Where?
sounds like Steven Zierk has finished that game against Begim, and I think he did manage to convert that one.
Exactly.
We left it with that nice knight takes e5 tactic.
Knight takes e5 and rook d3. We were very impressed by the finish there.
The f5 idea, and now it's 3 pawns. The black king has shelter, so not much to play for with white.
Exactly. By the way, nice technique. Very, very nice technique here where the black queen always stopped and he perpets. You know, you got your pawn on h5 and your dream is to go queen g6, queen e8, and get your draw. But Steven played it very well and just kept his queen.
And maybe we can get Steven in for an interview.
Of course.
That'll probably start to wrap up our show as games are ending, but we have to get him here first.
Okay.
Of course, he's down at the Chase Park Plaza Hotel is where those games are. And we'll keep an eye on some other stuff.
Let's go over to the A group for a moment and see if...
What did happen with Theodorou here? This was...
Right. Because...
Interesting. Maybe we have to refresh. And
Ooh,
it's just as nonsensical as expected.
Okay,
so we last left it. The rook slid over to a8.
Right.
And the knight came back to c4. And he did go for queen d8, okay.
Your turn. Your move.
Ooh, bishop f4 is really friendly.
Yeah.
that's a friendly move if I've ever seen one. You're doing me
a solid. And the rook, by the way, the knight on c4, this is like the hot potato knight. The knight didn't like d6. It didn't like b6. It liked, of all of the squares, a5 strikes me as the least desirable.
Maybe where white wishes it was Bughouse, just put a knight on a5 and b6 and d6, and then you're doing well.
Okay, so the move f5, very, very ambitious. I think that this is a certain moment right here. You might start to think that, okay, I can even start to think about queen g5 and making inroads on the queen side, on the king side, but f5,
crack them open.
Let's go. Well, knight
knight
c4,
back to c4, okay.
Knight g2.
Not done moving the knight around.
Whoa. Knight to d6.
Whew.
Okay, so he's got dreams, but that is a piece, right? You just got one check.
Yeah, I don't get it. I think this was a bad miscalculation.
It's a piece. Whoa.
Okay, so you get some stuff back, but okay, like white's like checkmated and...
In all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
No,
I think this game is about to end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A nice finish there. But I think much of this was really self-inflicted.
Yeah.
By white.
It's tough.
Okay.
So the final mate, if you go king b1, I'll go queen b3.
Yep.
If you go rook d2, I think it's rook a1 is the idea.
Rook a1. Nice.
I could be wrong.
King c2.
And my thought was queen a2, king c3, and rook c, or bishop d4, or bishop d2.
Yeah. Or
first one I saw was rook c1, but the bishop checks get it done as well.
Yeah, but the bishop check there, that's a nice one. Yeah. I mean, I take the rook because just in case it's not checkmate. Just
got to make sure.
I got a rook in the pocket. You know, when the arbiter informs me, that does work. Nice one. Nice finish.
Kuybokarov does win that game after resignation.
Okay,
and so I think Zierk is on the way. We'll get him shortly.
Okay.
So we'll just check in on these other games, maybe give some closing thoughts soon. But
first impression, Benjamin, he played h4, and there's a missing h-pawn.
He made his bed.
Yes.
Now he's lying in it, I
Okay,
guess.
so h6, rook e3, knight f8.
Okay, d5 was played.
Okay,
And
black is really solid.
yeah, all of a sudden, this black queen wormed its way in, c7
Magic.
over to the queen's side, now over to h4, picked up that piece.
And f6 to shut down this diagonal. Okay, so now we're left scrambling. We really need to find some compensation, keeping in mind that the rook is actually ideally placed. e2 is weak,
So
e4
yeah,
is weak.
in that current position, king h8, okay. Takes. Is this live now?
This is
Oh, okay.
the last move,
Bishop
bishop
C8 just
c8,
played.
was just played.
So obviously you have this pin on the f-pawn, and so black is very close to some kind of winning tactic.
Right. So he's trying to he's laid a trap.
Yes.
Let's put it that way. Takes, and this is what you were saying. The pin on the f-pawn is works in black's favor. So we can't grab the delectable c6 pawn.
It's hard to solve any of these problems for white, though.
By the way,
a3 played.
the Zierk point, right?
Zierk point.
We put all of our
It's-
pieces on there.
It's a different kind of Zug point here, though. It's more the kind of thing where I can't touch any of my pieces or else I'll hang a tactic.
Right.
Which is different than having all your pieces on the best squares and not knowing what to do.
Exactly. Now, the last move, bishop to c8 by black, it kind of evoked the idea that maybe he's looking at bishop a6. So
Maybe
a3,
where we're headed, yeah. And bishop
and he
a6
did play
played.
bishop a6.
You can't touch your bishop because the knight on e2 will fall. You can't touch your rook because f2 will hang. You can't really move your queen anywhere. So I guess
The rook, f2 will hang. Can't really move the queen anymore. But this is, Benjamin's in trouble.
yeah, what do you do?
Benjamin is in trouble.
Can't move the knight because the rook is attacked. Can't
Right,
can't move any of your pieces. Okay, bishop
Here we
g4.
go.
You can go that to that square. But I wonder h5 now.
h5
and
is a
simply
very
where do you go?
h5, rook h3 idea. So can I take it?
Aha.
I mean, I'm a little bit scared myself, though. But I think
Bishop c4 is also on the cards.
Oh, definitely. By the way, clock times.
Yeah, 5
This
seconds to
looks
figure it out.
Really, and what a moment to have no time on the clock. Bishop g4. And
And I'm pretty sure he didn't flag. We'll see him move soon.
let's hope so.
h5 played. Okay.
Wow.
All right. And after
Okay.
bishop h5 seems like the only option. I don't see what else you can do. Otherwise, I'll take c4 and just simply win the game.
Well, I'm just double checking bishop b4 just for the moment.
Bishop b4. Okay, bishop h5 played.
Because after bishop b4, you'd take on b4, I think.
Okay.
I take on h5. I'm hitting the rook on e8. The bishop on b4 no longer hits my pawn on f2. Didn't happen. 30-second increments. The players are playing on increments. There's a very exciting finish.
Bishop c4 played. Okay, so we're calling the move so far.
So far.
Queen has to move, or
Can
maybe
I take
rook
the rook?
Rook h3 is there?
Can I
Or
take
you want
the
to take
rook?
the rook?
Bishop takes e8. Bishop takes d3.
I should win a
Rook
piece there, I
h3.
think.
You take
No,
the rook,
I do. I
and
take
you
the
take
rook,
on
and I
e2.
take on e2. And I
Bravo.
am up a piece there.
Yes.
So if we go rook h3 here, there's queen f2. So queen c3 must be it.
Right. As we're getting ready, Stephen, to invite Stephen in to join us.
Yeah,
here.
maybe we'll see a couple more moves here, though. This is
Very
this
exciting.
is a pretty key moment here.
Okay.
Queen f5 played.
What a move.
And
Queen
what if-
f5, threatening the bishop on c5, threatening rook h3, threatening the
So-
rook on e8. Holy
Is it
smokes.
rook takes e2 here?
How about rook e5?
Rook e5 here.
Rook e5.
That seems better.
And
Rook
he's
e5
done.
played.
It defends the bishop, first of all. It wins a tempo. All the pieces are hanging.
All the pieces are hanging.
How the heck did this happen?
Rook h3, perhaps. Because now we've defended
Then
f2.
I take f5.
You take f5, and if I take h4, you have bishop f2.
Exactly. Exactly right.
Well, you have 10 seconds to find a move. Good luck.
And oh my gosh.
Yeah, is Bach reaching? What will it be? Queen G4 played.
Queen G4.
And now with Rook H5. Queen G7 is mate. Okay, let's not hang that.
Don't forget about mate in 1.
Oh my goodness.
Rook H5, Queen takes G7. That would rock your boat. You know, if you think about it.
Yeah. Oh, has Andrew already played? Yeah, Andrew
he
just
has
takes
to
the
trade queens.
Okay. And wait, E2 is hanging.
E2 is hanging. This is
I think Andrew's winning a piece.
Bishop takes. By the way,
bishop takes G4 played.
Bishop takes E2.
Bishop E2 is a piece. And I think the fireworks are over. And Andrew Hong came out on top in this game.
Wow.
Yeah, that is just a piece. Okay. Well, with the action winding down there, we do have Steven Zierk ready to join us in the studio, so we'll get him mic'd up really quickly.
Okay.
And Yasser, maybe you can flip over, see what his game was looking like.
Absolutely. I'll bring it in because it was actually a very impressive effort throughout. Steve was up against Begum, and more or less from the opening position, from the opening, he got a good position. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Just put this on here.
And we just, we'll bring it into the position here, Steve. When the position after Queen C1, your thoughts? What's going on?
So I was actually pleasantly surprised by Queen C1. I would say this idea of C4, Knight C5 feels good to me, and it feels like Queen E2 controls some key squares.
Right.
That I would want to make use of, but shouldn't, but can't.
So Queen E2 was your expected move.
Yes.
And the Queen C1, as you said, was the pleasant surprise.
Yeah, it felt like a good sign.
So, and by the way, Benjamin did win. Now here, what happened in the game, this is perfect hindsight, of course. She played C3, you got your knight to D3, and it was just really, really good. But more saliently, White's playing to checkmate you.
Right.
So C3 kind of helped, so to speak. Hold on, what did you do? You went Bishop B7. So, and then this is where critical. So more or less, had she played H4, give us a run through what was going through your head, because obviously H4, Knight H2. This is old school.
Right. Yeah. The classic way of playing these King's Indian attack positions.
Right.
So I was still feeling pretty decent because I've got enough play in the center. It's not like the positions that are just locked.
Right.
White would love to have played Knight E4, but the knight went to F1 before I took.
Exactly.
So it feels like a pleasant version of this middle game.
Exactly.
After H4, I'd probably still go for a likely similar idea with C4, Knight C5, but of course it's much weaker without those C3 pawn.
Yeah, without the pawn on C2, it's defending more squares. It's more of a game. I thought that in the game it just went so swimmingly smooth for you after your take over. Go ahead. I mean, it just felt like she was on the worst side of the position for the rest of the game.
Right, yeah. So C3, I think she just missed this C4, this knight transfer to D3. Mm-hmm. Because after C4, I mean, if I were white here, I'd probably want to play C3, C2.
The best move is to cover the D3 square.
Right, and it's just such a powerful square, and as a consequence, E5 is so weak that it's just so difficult for white to play around it. I mean, probably at some point white just has to give it up. I thought, knight D2 I expected. B3, unless white has something concrete, it just felt like things got more and more difficult.
Exactly. Everything was improving. You're just improving everywhere.
Right.
Here, you surprised us. Well, you surprised me because I'm a pawn grabber. I'm playing 1 minute chess over here. I'm taking on F3, taking on E5. But you felt Bishop A6 was even stronger.
Right, yeah. So I think the pawn's still a goner.
Right.
So I think, that pawn's just beyond saving. After Bishop A6, I have a whole lot of tactical possibilities there. Mm-hmm. Rook E4, I think, just makes things worse. There's a whole bunch of interesting lines after knight d6.
Okay.
Which is...
And what had you calculated?
So one line that I was thinking of playing was actually like knight d3 takes e5.
Oh. Okay.
And this ends up pretty similar, I think, actually, to the trading on f3, trading on e5 lines.
Okay, and the line?
Like white, let's say white takes on c8. There's a couple versions. I can play bishop d3 first. I can take on e2 directly. But you get a pretty similar position. It's queen, rook, and knight versus queen, rook, and bishop. I have this extra pawn. So let's say I take on e2.
Right.
Yeah. And then here, so if queen e2...
Maybe even...
So I wanted that. So queen e2, actually, queen c3 was my first thought.
Right.
But yeah, there's a nasty surprise there. White has knight e7
7
check.
check.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, that would...
Let's show our audience that, because at first blush, queen takes c3 does everything you want. You're ready to play queen takes c8, but knight e7 check, knight e7 and queen e5, and you're a little bit embarrassed. Like, why did I allow that? So that was not what you were going to allow. You were going to play something else.
So here I was thinking take on f3 and then probably rook takes c8.
I see. So
Yeah, there's a bunch of slightly different ways to do it. I could take with the queen too, but...
right. You more or less you're getting the same ending with, well, the e5 pawn is just gone.
Right, yeah, that structure, that material balance. Again, after knight d6, there's a whole bunch of interesting tries, but I couldn't quite make some of the other ones work. So like knight b4 is interesting, queen c3 is interesting.
Knight b4.
So this was the
That's
first
also nice, right?
Yeah, so this looks really nice because there's also this pin on the c file.
Right. What do I got to do?
So I think the only move is cb, but it actually is pretty annoying because I win the exchange. It takes, rook c2, but then white has this b5 at the end. Yeah.
And maybe this isn't so convincing as the, yeah.
Right, yeah, I go from having all the best pieces on the board to all the worst.
Right, like what was that? Okay, let's see the game, because the game was, again, it was a smooth operation. I mean, it all went just swimmingly well.
Right, yeah, here I have all those positional advantages from before, and I have an extra pawn, so...
Exactly.
I mean, it's difficult. Like, she's trying to find some kind of play, but again, my position is so sturdy, it shouldn't work unless I miss something.
Exactly. So here you've got everything in 2 pawns as well. It's all going very well. And there was a nice finish that we liked, especially, I think it was here. Pardon me, it was here, knight takes e5.
Oh, yeah.
Final touch. I mean, it was just really, really, really nice game. Impressive start. How are you feeling?
Yeah, feeling great. I mean, obviously, it's about as happy as I can be starting the tournament.
Exactly. Who do you play tomorrow?
So tomorrow I'm playing Ante Woodward, who I think is still playing an interesting rook and knight endgame.
Exactly.
Against
And Andy is, yes, he is the prodigy that everybody's talking about alongside Alice. They're playing today. So cool. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay, come back again.
I hope to.
show us more wins. Thank you, Stephen. And here we have an upcoming event right following this one, actually, the Cairns Cup, where we will see the strongest women's players in the world joining us here in St. Louis. I think, is this the 4th Cairns Cup? I'm not sure because COVID interrupted.
So 2020 was a weird year. The 2020 Cairns Cup was the last tournament we had before COVID fully struck. It was February 2020.
That was so brutal.
I think it is number 4. Of course, last year, the Cinderella story, Anna Zatonski winning the whole event.
Wow.
Should have some really interesting players this year. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Anna is shocking to feel she was seated last, and she won the game.
Maybe we can take a look at the few remaining games we have left.
Absolutely.
So Andy seems to have found his way out.
Well, power to him, because when we left it, that rook was one of the most heated that we had. In my time, we had a very outspoken player. His name was Lubomir Lubojevic.
Of course.
And Lubo had this marvelous way of saying miserable. It wasn't miserable, it was miserable. It was miserable rook. Why I have rook on h4 is miserable. So Andy had a miserable rook on h4, but he...
gave up the a-pawn, and then this knight c5 to e6 was a nice way to get it out.
He was slipping and sliding and
all of a sudden...
he's in a superior knight ending. Yeah. Look at him go. Superior, but isn't still drawn.
I won't disagree. Maybe white's on the better side, but I think black is comfortably drawing still. So for example, knight d5 here.
Okay, knight d5, that tickles the f4 pawn. So if the desirable knight takes d4 allows knight f4, so I have to...
And yeah, so against king d3, I wanted king f6. And against g3, I think knight e3 should be...
We're not there yet.
Okay.
We're not home and dry yet.
I guess I have to go for a knight c2.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought knight f1 was going to do it.
But now this is where things get fun.
So you're gaining some tempi on me, but maybe I can still take on h2, yeah, like this.
Okay, so the question is, okay, I guess...
I have knight back to f1.
Right.
Just in time.
Just moment. I understand. It's... I want to wrong foot you. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do that. I think it's a draw.
I definitely agree, though. Andy's the only one with chances.
Exactly.
And Alice, a minute 30 on the clock. It's not going to be easy.
Any other games in the A group?
Let's check it out. Let's see what we've got going on. I think Theodorou did, or Lu... So, sorry, Andrew Hong did win that game. That's the one we were looking at.
Right.
And then...
I think we've got all results.
If we scroll up, maybe? Oh, no, down. We do have all the results. So all 5 games have ended in the A group. Okay. So that makes Alice and Andy our final game remaining.
Okay, we're going to bring that up. We're going to be closing the show soon, but because they're down to just a minute or two.
Maybe we'll hang on just a couple minutes. Just see if something happens here.
Exactly. We used to say the vultures, right? Like when there's one game remaining in the tournament hall, right? And
they
both
start
players
to circle around.
the remaining players in the tournament hall circle around.
Yeah, you can see a lot of confidence from Andy here. I think he knows the hard part is over, and now it's just, will Alice find a way to draw?
Exactly.
His moves are going to be pretty clear.
Exactly.
It's not hard to play White's remaining moves. It's really a matter of, can Alice find the exact right way to close the game?
Seconds, G3.
15 seconds on the clock.
We have been looking at knight to E3,
knight E3,
E2, knight to C2. Now,
and Andy's just taken D4. Knight E3, knight takes D4 was played.
Whoa. Okay, am I trapping the knight? Check. What's going on?
I mean, even the king and pawn endgame is
trapping the knight.
The king and pawn endgame is not winning, though, right?
That's right. Isn't that drawn?
Should be.
Isn't that drawn?
So knight f3, of course, is what we're talking about. Well, maybe you start with king h5. No, you can't because of my f5 pawn.
So king f6, knight here.
Knight f3 is forced. Takes.
Oops, excuse me. Takes.
But yeah, king g6.
Okay.
I just wanted to go to the king side.
You want to go to the king side. I wanted to go to the center.
You can do your fancy opposition stuff, but I think this... maybe I'm a tempo short now.
Right.
But if I played knight f3 initially, then I have king h5 right away. So instead of king f6, knight f3.
Knight f3, okay.
Takes.
Yes, indeed.
And now king h5.
Okay. And pause.
Maybe king. You can tempo me, but...
King, you have to go back. King.
You do get to tempo me, okay. So king e3, now all of a sudden I'm in trouble again.
Right.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So I think your idea was the right way to go then.
This is a challenge for Alice.
She did already play king f6 though.
King f6.
She's going to the center.
I think so too. Okay, but
so then the question is, can I sneak around to the h file?
Right. Now I think if I declare my intentions, then I think you come back, and you get what your intention was, which was to meet me at the pass, right? You just keep me off away, and after king to e6, king here, then I think we do the famous...
we want d5, right? Or do we?
Well, if you go to d5, I go to d3.
And I thought king e6, just back.
And then I go to c4.
Ah. Okay.
That nasty, that's nasty stuff, right?
So king d6 you wanted?
Right, but hold on. King e6, king here, king d6, king d4.
That's what I thought.
That's my
And
problem.
that's
So then you
what
have to
I
go
tried to
like
avoid.
king e7.
Ah, yeah.
One of these beautiful, how do you say, corresponding squares, I think.
I believe so.
Jonathan Spielman in his book on king and pawn games called them corresponding squares. Herman van Riemsdyk, international master from Brazil, came to Seattle and gave a lecture on king and pawn games, which was just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling to realize how complicated king and pawn games can be.
It's
when
silly.
there's just a king and pawn. I mean, stop it. You know, what could possibly be wrong?
Yeah. I think that we did land on the technique, though, which is basically the black king wants to be on the same file as the white king.
Exactly.
So whenever black is stepping to the file first, that's when these issues are happening. So yeah,
Right.
king e7 is fine, but after king e3, for example, we don't want to step to the d file. We just want to match white on the e file. If you step to the left, I'll step to the left.
Right.
If you move to the right, I'll slide to the right.
Yeah.
And that should be
That's
the way
how
forward.
we tango.
Yeah.
And let's see how whether Alice, bless her heart,
Well, Andy was
knows
taking some time
knows
here.
the
He's
technique.
thinking about if king f2 is a clever tempo or not. He has played king f2, but
And-
in line with what we were just saying, I think king
King
f7
F7.
is a very prudent way to go. Once you realize that you just leave your king on the same file, it
Yeah.
becomes very, very simple. But you have
Exactly.
to realize this.
She
goes to
played
e6.
king e6, king
I mean,
takes. and
Doesn't
I think-
spoil anything, for
Right.
sure.
I think you can go back to f6 just perfectly fine.
She chose f7.
f7, showing some sophistication. If case of king e3, king e7.
Sure. In this case, I don't think it matters, but
No.
yeah.
But
Sometimes it does.
sometimes it does. Yes.
I think Alice is going to draw this game.
I think so too.
Maybe we should do our last look at some standings.
Please. Why don't we do that?
So let's start over in the A group where we
Okay.
do have all of our results.
Mm-hmm.
After the first round, it looks like we have two players standing atop the leaderboard.
Yep.
One of those being Temur Kuybokarov. I believe this is his classic debut.
Yes.
Debut in St. Louis. The #1 Australian player, I think originally from Uzbekistan,
Right.
now just crushes the chess tournaments in Australia. Also tied with him, we have Andrew Hong, who won that nice game against Benjamin Bach and all the complications.
Yep.
Starting off with a half point was a variety of players: Ray Robson, Ante Brkic, Grigoriy Oparin, Antipov, Awonder Liang, and Christopher Yu, all with a half point. And the victims in the first round were Benjamin Bach and Nicolas Theodorou.
And in
with
the
0 points.
B group.
And checking in on the B group, we still have this game with Alice Lee left remaining. But our standings aside from that are just one winner in Steven Zierk, and everyone else managed to end the game peacefully. Between Irina, Melik, Josiah Stearman, Raja Harshit, Akshat Chandra, Brewington Hardaway, they all ended with a half point. And then, of course, Alice and Andy are wrapping up their game here. We do believe Alice is going to be able to make a draw, moving them up to a half point.
Each. Caleb, it's been great. Great fun. We're going to do it all again tomorrow, same time, same channel.
Absolutely. A very exciting first round. That game with Bach and Andrew Hong coming down to the wire.
Exactly.
So-
On the time trouble.
Yeah, great stuff. If you at
to-
home want to follow along with the games, you can do so on chess.com starting at 1:30 p.m. tomorrow. Our coverage will begin promptly at 4 p.m.
Yes.
Don't miss it.
Don't miss it. Tell your friends where you're hanging out. Thank you for joining us. Caleb, thank you.
Thank you, Yasser.
Looking forward to tomorrow.
And we'll see you at home tomorrow.
Good night, everyone. Wow.
This has been a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. Any reproduction or distribution of this content without the express written consent of the St. Louis Chess Club is prohibited.